Just a reminder that the meeting is being recorded, and could you please stand for the opening karakia? Kia tauna mana ki tana, ki te ana, ki ronga ki tena, ki tena atato, mahia te waka hihi, ka toi te kupu, toi te mana, ki te aroha, toi te reka Māori, kia tutu, ka whakaua, kia tina, tina, huine, ai. Thank you. Are there any conflicts of interest today?
I believe I have a conflict at, I think 7 point, mana whakapono.
Thank you. There are no apologies. And we have a public forum today. I'd like to welcome our first guest, who is Rose, who is from our Tuia Civic Mentor Program. Rose is going to introduce herself. Come right forward, honey, and tell us a little bit about herself. You can sit if you want.
I'm going to come and sit by you.
Oh, hi.
Rose is my name.
Conflict of interest.
Couple of more indus.
Yeah, and you'll need to speak up too, Rose. So the floor is yours.
Kia ora koutou. As you heard, my name is Rose Haida Harmon. I whakapapa to Ngāti Kahungunu and Tangitane. Currently, right now in my life, I am in my 3rd year of study. I'm studying industrial design and my bachelor's. What else is there? I've got 3 jobs. I am ka whakahaere for the Wellington campus at Massey University, also a tour guide there, and I work at the warehouse. And I am your Tuia representative.
Would you like to tell us what experiences you've had with the program so far?
So far I've been on 2 wānanga, one in it was Hamilton and the other in Rotorua, and we've been connecting with other Māori people, other young Māori around the Motu actually. Yep, all the way down from Dunedin to all the way up in Auckland. And it's been a wonderful experience, honestly. Learning about the history, the whakapapa of the kaupapa, and how they got all the way here today. And also the last one, we got to connect with Te Taiao. An interesting story from the last one was I chose to do the rongoa practice. And so we did a karakia, and it was a different type of karakia where you did conscious breathing and you thought about what you wanted to get out of Te Taiao. And I said, I wanted to be a good tainer to Tuakana Te Taiao. So I was like, let us make that connection today. And so we went in, we collected different rako, and I got to have keep a piece of this rako called raureko, and the bark of the rako can be used as a pigment dye, and that is where my connection struck me, because I am a creative, and it painted, it stained my fingers, and I was just looking at it like, oh my god. Yeah, and so that was an amazing experience. And then our next wānanga will be down in Blenheim, and it is about talking about ourselves, tuia e roto, and pretty much exposing ourselves to our whānau that we've created at Tuia. And that's going to be a very interesting talk, hearing about everyone's experiences in life.
And when is your next one?
It is on the 7th of August.
Maybe you could come back to us after that one and update us.
Yes, I'd love to. Hopefully it doesn't clash with my studies.
Yeah. Hey, well done and congratulations. And that's terrific that you're getting a lot of the program, and thank you for working in partnership with us.
No problem. I want to thank Wairika because of my volunteering at Puawai STEM Academy. She was able to connect me to this kaupapa very easily.
Awesome. Well done.
You're wonderful. Catch me up before you go.
Thank you, Rose.
Rose.
He's definitely a shining light in it.
She's so proactive.
Thank you. That's awesome. And now, what a great way to follow up with. We've got 2 members here from the Youth Council. So if you'd like to come forward, and introduce yourselves, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Bella. I'm the chair of the Marsden District Youth Council alongside my co-chair Alia Mitchell from Solway College who is here today. I attend Chanel College and I joined the Youth Council because I wanted to help ensure the young people have a genuine say in the decisions in our community. Too often decisions are made about young people without young people actually being in part of the conversation, and I wanted to change that. Today, Chelsea and I are here to share about who we are, what we've been working on, and what we've heard from the young people across our region.
My name is Chelsea and I attend Chanel College. I am proud to be a member of the Marsden District Council. The Youth Council is made up of 13 young people aged between 14 and 19. We come from a range of schools and colleges across the district, including Wairarapa, Chanel, Solway, Rathkill, Te Kura Kaupapa, Wairarapa, and Makaurau. Together, we represent a diverse range of experiences and perspectives from young people across Marsden. I joined the Youth Council because I wanted to represent the voices of young people, contribute to positive change in our community, and develop my leadership skills while learning more about local government. The Youth Council gives young people an opportunity to share their ideas, have their voices heard, and connect with local decision making. It also helps members develop leadership skills and gain a better understanding of local government and community issues. This year, we're focused on building a strong foundation for the Youth Council and identifying where we can make the greatest impact. We've begun working alongside Councillor Waireka Collins, who supports us during our quarterly meetings. We'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Stella Lennox for her long-standing support of young people and the Youth Council. We've also started providing feedback on council plans and local bylaws. During our first wānanga, we identified several challenges facing young people. Many felt their opinions are not always heard or valued, and there is limited understanding of how local government works and how council decisions affect their lives. To help address this, we plan to increase youth engagement through social media, provide information in clear and accessible ways, and create opportunities for young people to learn about and participate in local government.
As many of you know, discussions around local government reform and possible regional amalgamation are ongoing. These conversations could have significant impacts on young people, yet many feel disconnected from them or unsure what they mean. We believe the Youth Council can help bridge the gap in making that information more accessible and ensuring youth perspectives are included in the wider community discussions. One of our most valuable opportunities this year was engaging with young people during Youth Week. We held our first ever Youth Council consultation at the Youth Hub, inviting young people to complete a survey in exchange for a free sausage and an entry into a spot prize draw. This gave us a valuable insight into what matters for the youth in Marsden. Young people describe Marsden as a friendly, welcoming community with great parks, reserves, playgrounds, and outdoor spaces. They value the strong sense of community opportunities to spend time with friends and whānau, and the fact that it feels like a safe and comfortable place. Many young people want future generations to have the same positive experience growing up in Marsden and see opportunities to build on these strengths as the town continues to grow. The playground is seen as a fun, safe and inclusive place that young people strongly support continuing to develop. Suggestions such as bigger slides, longer flying foxes, climbing walls, trampolines, water play areas and additional shade and seating are some of the main things that were said, but something that was really focused on was a major focus on accessibility. With young people wanting features such as wheelchair-friendly equipment, sensory play elements, New Zealand Sign Language signage, and clearer navigation to ensure all children of all abilities can enjoy the space. Young people want to build on what already makes Marsden a great place, creating a cleaner and more vibrant community. Suggestions include more youth events like sport tournaments, music festivals, and community movie nights, along with improved public spaces, as I mentioned before, increased housing and employment opportunities, and greener community areas. And although many find Marsden a safe place during daylight hours, there is still a want for a safe place to go at night time for teens to socialise and make important connections. Young people also highlighted the importance of better engagement through platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and would like council information and policies explained in simple, youth-friendly terms. That's what we can do. Many of the issues raised closely align with you guys, with council priorities, including community wellbeing, public spaces, safety, and creating a district where people want to live, work, and participate. The Youth Council is going to provide ongoing opportunity to bring youth perspectives into these conversations, just like what I'm doing right now.
Moving forward, we want to continue building a positive and collaborative relationship with council. This includes regular opportunities to share youth perspectives, provide feedback, and contribute ideas that help strengthen our community. Our focus this year is building stronger connections with young people across the district. We want to keep listening to their ideas, help them better understand how council works, and create practical opportunities for youth voices to be included in decision making. By the end of the year, we hope the Youth Council is better known across the community and that more young people feel their opinions matter and that they have meaningful opportunities to get involved.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak today. Being part of the Marsden District Council, Youth Council, is such a privilege, and we're excited about strengthening the relationship between us and you guys. Young people are not only the future of Marsden, but they are part of its present. By working together, we can build a community where young people feel heard, valued, and empowered to contribute. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to working.
Right. So, on behalf of our council, that was fabulous. It's great to meet you both and for you to join us, and we hope to see more of you. There were some brilliant ideas in there. I'll just pick one. I love the way that you highlighted accessibility for the playground. I think that's fantastic that you did that. And brilliant speaking. How did you find it? All right? But it's great to see that you're enjoying the role, and thank you, Warika and Stella, and also to Deb and Kelsey particularly as well. So we look forward to seeing you again and also hearing your input. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a great way to start the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll continue on. There are no late items. If you want to stay, Rose, you're welcome, or you can, happy to leave if you don't want to stay. So we move on to 5.1 minutes for confirmation on page 6. Just a reminder, there's no discussion on the minutes. It's to confirm that they're accurate. Do I have a mover of the minutes? Councillor Goodwin, seconded by Councillor Lennox. All those in favour say aye. Against? The motion is carried. Now we move to 5.2 minutes for confirmation of the council meeting 27th of May on page 25. The recommendation of the extraordinary council meeting be received and confirmed as a true and correct record of that meeting. Have a mover from Councillor Cathell, seconded by Councillor Bowyer. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. 5.3 minutes for confirmation, council meeting 10th of June. Do I have a mover for the motion that they're true and correct? Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Holmes. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. And 5.4 minutes for confirmation, council meeting 17th of June. That the minutes of the council meeting be received and confirmed as a true and correct record. Do I have that? Councillor Bowyer, seconded by Councillor Holmes. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. Now we move to page 57, which is 6.1, the hearings committee meeting. you'll see the proposed recommendations. Is there anything to present?
Papers, separate agenda.
So I'll take the papers as read. And we'll go first to the hearings committee. We note the committee has been provided with the full set of submissions, considers the feedback, notes minor changes to the proposed street tree policy, recommends the council adopt the proposed street tree policy, notes that subject to adoption, proposed street tree policy will come into force on the 1st of July. Notes that the street tree policy, God, that's hard to say, will be revoked from the time the proposed street tree policy comes into force. Recommends that council undertakes a district-wide canopy assessment and scopes an urban forestry strategy. I'll tell you what we'll do actually. We'll go points 1 to 6 first. So points 1 to 6, do I have a mover for those? Councillor Bowyer and a seconder, Councillor Goodwin. Any discussion? No? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. We'll come to point 7, which is recommends that council undertakes a district-wide canopy assessment and scopes an urban forest strategy. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Collins. Brent?
Just a query. I wonder if we can, possibly utilise a local group to do that, or help us do it. There are various groups I can think of that would be interested in that.
So these resolutions are just to confirm that that's the report from the hearing committee. It's not the substantive recommendation. We address those points in the upcoming papers on street tree policy and the alcohol bylaw because officers have provided some comments and some advice around that. So this is just receiving that was the report from the hearings committee.
So I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour, any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. Then we move to point 8, recommends that council scopes the establishment of a tree advisory group.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Holmes. Discussion? None?
Well, I thought we just
Uh,
discussed that we'd receiving what the recommendations were.
Just receiving.
No, just received. Okay. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Right. Motion is carried. Okay, got confused. Okay, then we move to deliberations on the alcohol control bylaw that the hearings committee notes the committee has been provided with the full set of submissions, considers the community feedback, notes minor changes are proposed to the alcohol control bylaw, or agrees that these minor changes do not require any amendment to the considerations and determinations made by the council on 18th February. Point 1, I won't read this out, you take it as read. 5, recommends the council adopt the proposed alcohol control bylaw. 6, notes that subject to adoption, the alcohol control bylaw will come into force on 1st of July 2026. 7, notes the alcohol control bylaw will next be reviewed in 35-36. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Lennox. All those in favour? Oh, this time?
No, it's just receiving. It's just receiving the report.
Here we go.
One each.
It's a bad habit.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. Very Okay, now we move to point 7.1 on page 64, which is the adoption of the alcohol control bylaw. Karen, would you like to?
I'm going to hand over to Tanya to take it through the next few reports.
The floor is yours.
Kia ora. So the purpose of this report is to present back to Council the alcohol control bylaw for adoption. As you've just discussed and noted, this has been through the full process of consultation, hearings and deliberations. The recommendation to adopt is consistent with the hearings committee recommendation to Council. I think the key thing to note is that the bylaw will support council to maintain its alcohol controls in public spaces and also expands that out to the coastal communities.
Are there any questions of Tanya? No? Thank you, Tanya. The council agrees to the hearings committee recommendations that A, council adopt the proposed alcohol control bylaw, and 2, notes that subject to adoption, this will come into force on the 1st of July 2026, and 3, notes that the alcohol control bylaw will be next to be due for review in 35-36. Do I have a mover, please?
Move.
Councillor Cathell, seconded by Councillor Bowyer. Any discussion? No? I'll move the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Thanks, Tanya. Moving on to page 125, 7.2, adoption of the street tree policy. Over to you again, Tanya. Thank you.
So similar to the last report, this report is bringing back for council adoption the final street tree policy, noting again that it has been through the full process of consultation, hearings and deliberations. The hearings committee, as you just discussed, recommended that 2 points. One is that in addition to adopting the policy, council explore an urban canopy assessment, which would also form part of an urban forest strategy. It also recommended that we scope out the consideration of a street tree advisory group. So as the report speaks to those 2 points, in relation to the urban forest strategy, it is recommended that that actually be considered as part of the broader environmental portfolio review that is underway at the moment. We're expecting to workshop that with council in August, considering whether we proceed with that urban forest strategy or how that might look as part of the broader review. Will enable council to consider that amongst all the priorities in the environmental space. And like I say, that's looking at August workshop for council. With regard to a street tree advisory group, once the policy is operational, there would be limited scope for that group to advise in that space. Our recommendation, therefore, is that we establish a group as and when needed around more significant decisions, and or, for example, if a urban forest strategy was to proceed, then that might be an opportunity to put together an advisory group to work around that strategy. So that would be our recommendation back to council. And in the meantime, we also advocate for increased focus on communication and engagement with the community around street tree matters.
Thank you, Tanya. Questions? Councillor Lennox.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Thanks for the report. Just a query. So we've just signed off the minutes from the hearings committee, and the one recommendation around there were 2 recommendations that we signed off, one being the urban forest strategy and one being council's scope for the establishment of a tree advisory group. I'm just confused as to why we've got this other new option, the improved communication, and why that's now in the report. And then we get given the or, because I'm confused as to why we've added something new in from the decision we made at the hearings committee.
So just to be clear, you just accepted the report from the hearings committee,
Correct?
but not the actual recommendations themselves. You just acknowledged that that was the report because the recommendations were coming through in these 2 reports. So now is the time to discuss what those recommendations are. So as with everything, we take the recommendations and then we add officer advice to those recommendations so council can consider all the relevant matters in front of it. So now's the time to consider what those recommendations were and the extra advice, and then form a council member as to what to do.
Okay, so can I reframe my question then? So what were the reasonings in regards to adding the extra agrees to focus on improved communication when we already had agrees to scope the establishment? What was the reasoning behind that extra addition?
We felt the policy, once it's adopted, is going to set the decision-making framework. And so even if a group was established, they would be operating within that framework. Where they would probably add more value is influencing and shaping future strategic direction or around a specific significant decision. There was a major decision related to trees that needed to be made. that would be the time to pull together a group. And that's consistent with what we're doing in other spaces, for example, with the Town Centre Scrum. It's a group coming together to focus on a specific issue or matter, a broader context, particularly once the operational policy is in place.
Thank you.
I've just got a quick. So if you had a significant matter like that and it became apparent, how would you call the group together, and would elected members have any influence in that, or is that purely operational?
We would have to work through, like with our significance engagement policy, what a significant matter would be, and be guided by that around the level of consultation. In other situations where we've called together groups, it's been a matter of reaching out to a relevant community. We also have people, for example, who are on our climate advisory group, who are on a list that we can call to if we need to for advice, who may be appropriate people as well.
Councillor Goodwin.
Do you think, the CBD project had some pretty bumpy periods, especially about trees, and do you think this would address the problems that we had where the trees weren't even mentioned really? It was about infrastructure, it was about pipes and roading and paving. Do you think this would stop that happening again?
I can jump in, and that was a question that was asked of the hearings committee, and we don't have Oz with us at the moment, but his response really was no, because as we remember, the decision around the CBD was around keeping costs low and only restoring what was currently there. Now, as things developed, council formed a different view, and so things changed. That's always going to happen, regardless of whether you're going to have a group or not. What we are saying as officers is that previously a group, we didn't have a very robust policy and a very robust procedures. We've got a lot of the information that we previously would have asked a group for actually contained within the policy and contained within the procedures. So now we have that, we don't have the same need for a group, apart from when we have all these one-off that might be, we're looking at maybe that if we do proceed with an urban tree strategy, we want some extra advice, and that's when we can go out to the community there. So in my view, and I know that was Oz's response as well at the hearings committee, no, I think it was unfair to look at the street tree issue around the CBD as being a particular problem that a group would solve.
But can I just retort that perhaps if, like the Auckland street tree policy, we put some value on the trees, and that value varied with their size, then we may have prevented some of those upsets in Queen Street. And so I'm just suggesting that we can discuss maybe strengthening that valuation tree, because as in your words, they weren't valued in the resolution. But from a councillor point of view, we didn't know it involved trees.
So there's a bunch of things going on there. The valuation issue was simply a response to a little request about what the valuations are, and so our council values trees in terms of the accountancy for how much the replacement is. That's not to say that we don't also value the intrinsic, but that wasn't the question that was asked. So the information council doesn't really value trees is not correct. The urban tree strategy is something where other councils have looked to value that intrinsic nature of trees, and that's something that's in front of you today. Do you want us to look at forest strategy where we looked at that valuation? And that's something that we do as an assessment as the first part of developing that strategy. So that's a separate thing, but that's for you to decide to pursue that.
I've got a question. Because there was a real appetite for an urban forest strategy, which is much bigger than street tree advice, I don't fully understand why we would need a tree advisory group. We were trying to look at the bigger picture. And you've talked about pulling in people's expertise, whereas to me, part of developing an urban forest strategy would be pulling in people's expertise. So my question is, I think personally, do you not think tree advisory group is too small when we probably have an urban forest strategy group?
Potentially, that could be scoped if we wanted to proceed.
Because there's no point in having a tree advisory group if they meet every quarter and all they're doing is following the policy. The idea of, I believe, Councillor Lennox, you can reiterate this, was to reach out to members of the community who have particular knowledge or experience in this area, and also to build back some reputation and trust as well with regards to what Councillor Goodwin was just talking about. So to me, having a tree advisory group for the sake of having one doesn't actually make sense. Whereas the bigger picture makes sense to me. Your thoughts?
That is the intent of what we tried to articulate in the policy, that if we were going to go down the track of an urban forest strategy, that would be a time to pull together a working group to support that process like we have done with other specific projects in the past.
I'm much more supportive of that idea. And they're long-term strategies too, and visions and aspirations of how we want Masterton to look like. Is that correct?
Yes, it helps to shape the direction going forward, whereas the policy is set in place.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Any other questions of Tanya?
Yeah, it's,
Councillor Holmes?
that's probably more of a comment.
Okay, we'll come to that. All right. Councillor Lennox?
Yes, so just in regards to that then, so still, because obviously the wording is to scope for an advisory group. So we today could look at changing the wording of that to scope for an urban forest strategic group, or and because scoping is not establishing, scoping is you guys go away and you look at how this group's going to be created, who will sit on it, what the strategy is, what their involvement will be, etc., etc. So I think we need to move away from saying that we're establishing something today. We're not, but I think I want clarity as to we can look at changing what the name of that group might look like today in regards to scoping for whatever it is we're looking for.
Yeah, you can change that.
So the paper suggests that we consider the need for and the scoping of the urban forest strategy as part of the environment portfolio. So that is intended to be workshop with council in August. So you can then look at that and amongst other priorities and decide if that is the priority for the next 12, 18 months or further beyond.
Thank you.
So I just have one more question, then we'll go to Tim. So, because we want to make this as clear as possible. So we could agree to point 5, which is agrees on improved communication, because that's all great regarding street trees. And part of the urban point 4 would include workshop and our discussions with regards to how that looks like, which would include an urban forestry group, correct?
To support the development of the work, yes.
Yep. Okay, great.
Sorry, did you say that discussion would involve some other groups?
No, with preparation or scoping the urban forest strategy, part of that would be talk about an urban forestry group and how that fit in. So it becomes a big strategy, which includes that.
I suppose my query is that would it not be possible to, as early as possible, introduce some of that expertise that is out there and passion that is out in the community at the beginning of that process?
Tanya, that's possible, isn't it?
Yes, if we decide, as council decides to proceed with that, when we look at the environment portfolio, then that is something that we looked.
So that becomes part of the work of point 4, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll talk about this. I'm not.
Okay, Tim.
Just to be really clear, so can you explain the practical difference between the hearings committee recommendation to scope a tree advisory group and the officer recommendations to consider a project-specific advisory group as part of the urban forest strategy? And are we effectively achieving the same outcome through different wording?
I understood, I wasn't at the hearing, so Karen may be better to respond, but my understanding what was discussed at the hearings was specific to the policy, a street tree advisory group around the policy. And what we're trying to articulate is that the policy once set needs to be followed. And so it might be of more value to have an advisory group working around a strategy that helps shape future direction.
Yeah, I wasn't at the hearing, so I don't know
Two separate
that specifically, but I would like from the officers, the elected representatives who were there. And just one thing in regards to Karen, you said before about councillors changing their mind about that initial project. In the paper that we got back, it said there was going to be no material change in the look and feel of what was happening with the reduced scope. And to me, that would be stating that the trees would stay, and the trees being removed does materially change the look and feel. So it wasn't a change of mind from me as a councillor. It was actually a misinterpretation between officers and councillors as to what the look and feel would be.
Okay, so thanks, Tim. Any other questions of Tania? So we can change these recommendations if we want to. Thank you, Tania. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go through points 1 to 3, and then we'll do the next two individually, which is we've already had a practice run.
We can talk about how that is
Yeah.
worded,
Yes.
because there's,
So the recommendation in the report is that council agrees to the hearings recommendation. A, council adopted the proposed street tree policy. 2, notes that subject to adoption, this will come into force on the 1st of July. And 3, notes that the street tree policy will next be due for review in 3031. I have a mover for that, please. Councillor Bowyer,
why?
Hold 1 second, please. Hold caller.
What whole music would you like? The New Zealand classics? Or just
Kiwi anthems.
Elevate music.
False alarm, please continue.
False alarm. So do I have councillor Bowyer, was it? And seconded by
I'm happy.
councillor Holmes. So that's for points 1 to 3. Any further discussion on those? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Those are carried. We'll come to point 4. Notes an urban forest strategy and a district-wide canopy assessment will be considered as part of the environment portfolio review. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bowyer. Seconded by councillor Lennox. Any discussion? No? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Point 4 is carried. Point 5. So we've got 2 options here. If you just have a read through that. Or agrees the council scopes the establishment of a tree advisory group. I'd like to move the first one. And I'll talk to that. The reason why I want to move the first one is I feel reassured that part of the urban forest strategy will include a consumer focus group or specialist advisory group. And I think that sits better into the strategy level than into the street policy level. Because one is I'm not a fan of people meeting for the sake of meeting. But also 2, the urban forest strategy will project a long-term view for Masterton, and that these people will step with us along the way of the journey and be instrumental in what we decide, what we talk about and what happens. So I'd like to elevate the street advisory group to be part of so that we have a group as part of the urban forest strategy. So that's my rationale for moving point 5. Do I have a seconder?
Well, I think we need some wording around that, Bex, because I'm still you're sort of indicating that you're still interested in having a group of some form of sort of strategic level community group as part of the urban forest strategy, but that needs to be worded. Yeah, you're still interested in scoping for a group that's part of the strategic, because I think what's important, it's not really my time to chat, is
No, it's all right.
Oh, yeah. I think what's important is we're getting confused with, I think the staff's fear is this is going to be an operational group of people in a room talking about a
Okay.
liquid amber going,
I've got a
Three me-
question.
yeah.
Okay, what if we go point 4, notes an urban forest strategy and a district-wide canopy assessment, including an advisory group.
Yep.
So we're adding that into the urban forest strategy. We've already.
Yeah, but you can agree to redo
Okay.
it if that's.
You have to put in. That's an addition.
How would
Add
you
an
adjust
additional
to that?
one.
Okay, then.
We'll
What if-
just do a 4B.
Yeah.
You do a 4B,
Establish a
establish a,
urban forest.
Forestry Strategy Advisory Group.
yeah, but we need to scope
Hold it.
and establish. So scoping first, because I don't want to agree to something I don't even know what it's going to look like. So we need to scope it and understand as councillors what that looks like, and then establish, obviously.
So we just include scope.
Yep.
We won't establish, we'll scope it.
Because
Scope,
it comes
yeah.
back to the council before to agree. So it would be scope an urban forestry strategy advisory group.
I'm
As part of the strategy.
as part of
Well,
that.
that's 4B.
Strategy.
We've
Yep.
got
Yep.
4 and then 4B
So it links the two, so it's not a separate thing.
group as part of. Okay, so I'll just go through it. So the first point that we've already moved was notes and
I'm interested to
forest
hear-
strategy and a district-wide canopy assessment. We'll come to you in a minute, Brent. Will be considered as part of the environment portfolio review. And 4B, scope an urban forestry group as part of the strategy.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear, I'd like to hear the councillor chat around this.
Yeah, Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if we couldn't have a tree advisory group. It doesn't have, I don't believe it has to meet every 3 months or whatever was said. The last one, I know there was some personality problems in it, but you know, it saved us spending way over the top on pruning trees, which we were paying way over the top, and without that sort of input, you know, they have a lot of skill that isn't around this table, and I would like to see that group established. It was someone said, what's the point of them 3 months? Well, don't meet every 3 months. Meet when there's some issues to discuss. And that message was very strong. And they can still be part of your 4B.
I think I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tree advisory group with a different name.
AJ, then David.
I actually agree with you, Brent. I think that the community were really strongly spoken. I was a submitter and I did listen to the community's feedback, and there was a strong willingness for the re-establishment of the street tree policy. I appreciate that it's a policy and there's concerns around operation, but I actually think these can be fans and advocate and help support us in the community. And I know we're talking about raising it to look at canopy, but I think the establishment of the street tree advisory group in the interim before the canopy group gets established would be a good step forward. I think we had people that clearly articulated their strengths and values that street tree brought. We've heard from our community around trust and confidence. We know that took a hit, particularly on our street trees, and it's a way of including our community in the decision making. So I support the establishment of the street tree advisory committee that then may lead into, once we agree with other priorities in August, where it sits with an urban forestry group. This group can help with communications, it can help with external fundings. It doesn't just have to have debates around what streets trees go where, but they can help communicate out to our community. So I strongly support it.
Thank you.
Actually, AJ stole a lot of what I was going to say, but at the hearings, it was very evident. It was very, very evident that they wanted to remain and have a street advisory group. Now, we had some submissions from a lot of people, and a lot of people had wonderful experiences, trees and shelter and everything else. And they're not extreme or anything like that, but they were good at their job. And I think that, probably to put it in a nutshell, if we could advise if we could put the tree advisory group and the urban forestry strategy really direct all under one umbrella, that's probably what we're trying to achieve, is it? But I think it became very evident that people wanted a tree advisory group.
Councillor Bowyer?
Yeah, I actually think they're one and the same. The problem with this tree advisory group is that it'll be working under a policy which it actually can't do anything about. Okay. Whereas in fact, this tree advisory group or the forest strategy advisory, whatever you want to call them, they will have far more say because they're developing a strategy. Okay. Out of that. So I think in some ways we're talking about the same thing. Yeah.
Councillor Mahirangi, then to you.
Councillor Bowyer, I agree with that, because what we also have to remind ourselves is that an urban forest strategy was never on the table for discussion. So people talked a lot about the tree policy because that was what was on the table. We hadn't have this option. And so I think, this is an opportunity to elevate that conversation up. So I think it is being wrapped up inside the corridor. Kia ora.
Stella?
Actually, everyone has said.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will move B, and if it doesn't live, it doesn't live. So 4B is scope and urban forest group as part of urban forest strategy.
That agrees to scope.
Agrees to scope.
Agrees.
Or an urban forest strategy.
Okay, agrees to scope an urban forest strategy advisory group as part of the development of the urban forest strategy. And so that's a group that will be involved in all of it.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes?
Around this. So I just want timings around this. So the Urban Forest Strategy Advisory Group, what that looks like and how it's implemented in the structure, we discuss as council based on, I'm guessing you guys will come back to us with a bit of an idea and a plan. What's the time frame around that? Like, is it months, years?
So we've included that we would do that work as part of reviewing the environmental portfolio, and we propose to come to the August meeting workshopping.
Right. So my next question is, all going well, and we say we agree to 4B today, all going well, we could have a Urban Forest Strategy Advisory Group set up and operating by 2030? No, that's when we review the policy. I just want to know, is there going to be a big lag of years between today and...
It all depends on the discussions around what we want for the environmental portfolio, because we have 3/4 of a person and there's an awful lot to do. So we're working through, that information. So we'll discuss it at the workshop. But of course, that would need extra support from us.
Can I just ask a question though? But you could identify, yes, that we want this group. Yes, let's go out and source people for that group, because then you're also covering off number 5,
yes,
which is to explore broader community input, because you're actually roping in some people that you can have access to.
We can absolutely scope it, and we will have that discussion at workshop, and from the decisions from there, that may be, let's go and set this up straight away.
So the group could be set up prior to the urban forestry strategy being developed, because it's all encompassing. Yes.
And
it's actually exciting.
if council wanted to allocate or fund more resource, then this could happen sooner.
So on that note, this is actually great, because the pictures become bigger, which is governors, this is what we should be doing, higher level, not in the weeds down Queen Street. But I think it's great in the sense that we haven't had an urban forest. It's exciting in itself, and we're leading in that area, which is great, and backing that up with a group of advisory experts to help deliver a strategy.
Absolutely.
I think it's great.
Okay, so 4B, you've seen. I'd like to move that. Do you have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Lennox, any further discussion? All those in favour?
Can I say something?
Quickly.
Yep. Hey, as chair of this is a really topical discussion. It's up there with dogs. Okay? It's really a dog fest, okay? And cats. So I think, honestly, we've landed in a spot here. Really contentious. There was a huge desire by the public to see something. Trees are going to become more and more important. They've always been important, but as the way that climate seems to be heading, I think this will be hugely topical here. I just want to thank council staff, councillors, everyone involved, especially today. I think it's been a very good discussion. Thank you.
And I concur with Stella, it is exciting. So we have a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? This is for 4B. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. Now we move on to 5. So I would like to move 5, the first point, because I feel that we've covered off what we were.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on 5? I think 5's a great, a good aspiration regardless for everything that we do. Okay, I've moved and Craig has seconded. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Good discussion. Now go hug a tree. Anyway, moving on to page 164, 7.3.
164.
Thank you, Maharangi. Yep. So
Page what?
164.
164, Rangitāne o Wairarapa Mana Whakahono Rohi initiation letter. And hand over to Karen.
I'm going to hand back over to Tanya.
Thank you.
Paused on me at the moment.
Tanya.
The report presents the initiation letter that we have received from Rangitāne entities and parties to enter into a mana whakahona rohi agreement. So the letter we've received asks us to initiate that process. As stated in the report, the agreement is a formal structured arrangement between councils, and they have invited the other two Wairarapa councils and Greater Wellington Council as well to be part of this process, to discuss and agree how we will all work together under the RMA. The report outlines the key steps in that process, which would be 2 critical points are the need to convene a hui within 60 days and also the need to conclude the agreement within 18 months unless there is further agreement that those timeframes change. So under the RMA, reform too, because there has been a question, existing and initiated agreements may continue. So the initiation of this process now under current legislation enables us to proceed. The agreement must include RMA, so it must talk to what we will do in the RMA space together. It can extend beyond that with mutual agreement, so that would be part of the scoping conversation with mana whenua. Yes, and subject to council adoption, we will notify Rangitāne and we will work with the other councils to move forward and organise the hui that is required within 60 days.
Questions? Gary.
Just one question that hits me is, we've got 2 main iwi here. Is the other iwi involved in this as well, or it's just Rangitāne?
This has been initiated by Rangitāne entities, so this would apply to Rangitāne and the entities associated with Rangitāne.
Any other questions? AJ?
Just a follow on from that one. So is there an opportunity to enter into a similar conversation with Kahanunu?
If Kahanunu were to initiate a similar process.
AJ?
So what would the risk of us initiating that? I just, just to acknowledge to iwi and we're entering into a more formal relationship with one than the other. Is there a risk if council were to share this with Kahanunu and ask if they were interested in a similar?
Tim?
Well, the approach is from Rangitāne, so we will just deal with Rangitāne on this. If Kahanunu would like to initiate, it's a really clear legislative process, so they would initiate with us. It's a directing back. So doesn't eliminate the opportunity for an Ngāti Kahungunu or Kahungunu to have that conversation. We wouldn't do it jointly, I don't believe, unless they approached us jointly.
What is the risk of us approaching Kahungunu?
It's not for us to initiate it.
I don't know if there's any risk to it. They're aware the legislation exists at the moment. And really, we are responding to the initiation from Rangitane. It's important to note, though, that over the next 18 months, if there is a change of reform, through the RMA, whatever is agreed between the parties is enduring and it's grandfathered. So that's something that's important to note, whatever that might be. So, because if legislation changes, rules are relaxed for whatever reason, or things are added, it applies to the law of today.
And this could also be a catalyst for, seeing the pensions and.
Thank you, Bex. I'm just not entirely sure what I'm agreeing to here. So we're accepting this, and a paper's going to come back to us later on into council for us to formally adopt. Is that right?
So really, so you can't not accept this. So
we're accepting this the recommendation that for the meeting or the hui to take place.
Yes.
Then from the hui, something is created.
That's right. So we'll then bring a group together of, or nominate a group within council, who will then work on behalf of the council to develop up an agreement.
Yep.
But we'll also, that would have to get council. And I think over that 18-month, I would expect that we're bringing back to the council on how that's progressing.
So we're agreeing for something to be a process to take place.
Yes.
The process outcome comes back to us to ratify essentially for council.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor Bowyer?
I think, do you have examples where other councils have gone through this process?
Yes, there are examples. Northland has several. There's a couple of regional councils. I believe, if I'm right, I think Waikato and Bay of Plenty have all got processes in place. I would need to double. There's around 7 or 8 that are available on the website of other councils that are in the process or have actually agreed.
Councillor Holmes?
I'd feel more comfortable if Kahungunu were involved in a joint leader as well. I know it's all very well for Rangitane to initiate it, but I feel uncomfortable at Kahungunu. After all, they are both representing the Wairarapa, and I feel I'd like to see them invited to the meeting as well, but they can't because Rangitane's in first.
Is this discussion?
Sorry, Councillor.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not about who's in first. Now, Robin can take that back to Kahungunu, and if they'd like to, they'd be more than happy to do that too.
Robin, would you like to contribute? Well, sorry, I just feel
we're question time or
it's very obvious that Robin hasn't contributed. Yeah, just say, are there any more questions of Tania at the stage?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move the recommendation if I can have a seconder, and then we'll go into discussion. Councillor Bowyer. Robin, I'd really appreciate your input.
On first hand, as you believe, our settlement was a comprehensive settlement, and we were all over the RMA. One of the biggest issues facing us now with MB, with the new rollout of the supposedly new legislation is, especially for iwi that have settled, those of us who settled under the RMA, potentially forming the viewpoint that the settlements are up for renegotiation. This was actually a live issue because the Crown had taken away an important part of our agreed settlement, and ours is only 5 years old now. So I can take this back to our legal team, because we do have a legal team, But you will find that our deed of settlement was a very comprehensive one. And it's fair to say that the Crown negotiator did have meetings with the Marsden District Council preceding 2021. And he informed the council their obligations that would happen under our deed. And imagine having a coffee with him at midday, so I'll have to be excused.
Warika.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that Ngāti Kahungunu and Rangitane are separate entities. There's very little that crosses over between the two of them. What Rangitane does is separate from Ngāti Kahungunu, and you know that they should be considered as such.
Yep. Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you. So we move to 7.4, which is page 170. Use of public places by adjoining business premises policy. My gosh, we need a shorter name for that.
Formerly known as the encroachment policy.
DABBP. So Tania and Matt, we welcome your report.
Us.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Mr. Rangi had to go at 10:30 anyway.
Oh, okay.
Tania and Matt, welcome.
So this report, the purpose of this report is to bring a new policy to council. As Beck said, it's the use of public places by business premises policy. The intent of the policy is to enable businesses in our community who adjoin a public space to be able to consider using that public space for business purposes. So that could be for outdoor dining, it could be for the sale of goods, or there is also the category of ancillary commercial use, which might relate to perhaps say they wanted some marketing tool, statue, something to go outside their business. So as you're aware, through the development plan process and the engagement we received pre-Christmas and early this year, through the business summit, there was a lot of conversation from our community and a lot of desire for the community to see more vibrancy, more vitality in our CBD. There has been a number of expressions of interest and inquiries relating to sort of potential use of public spaces. So that has driven the need for this policy. Historically, we don't, decisions around these sorts of things have been ad hoc. By having a policy, we've been really clear and transparent with our community around what would be required and what the expectations would be if somebody wanted to make use of a public space. The policy itself outlines the opportunities and what can be considered. Like we say, there's the economic outcomes and the vitality and vibrancy outcomes that we want. They also need to be balanced, of course, with community safety and accessibility needs, etc. So the policy is aiming to find a pathway where we can enable economic vitality and what our community wants as far as a more vibrant space, while also balancing those needs for making sure that it's safe and accessible. The policy applies to the town centre, and it would also apply to Lansdowne and the Kawafuni areas. It doesn't go wider than that at this point in time. There's 3 classifications that have been identified in the policy, and then the intent of that is to try to be fair and reasonable about people, the process and the level of fees. So at a minor level, anything less than 2 square metres that has very minor impact would be a minor category. Essentially, we want to know about it. From there, it escalates to standard and to major. A major licence to occupy would be something that would perhaps involve a car park or a greater space or a more substantive encroachment. So fees and the process required align with that. The process for assessing and facilitating consideration of fees would be through our taking care of business process. So businesses who are interested in using public spaces would apply through that process, and that would be facilitated by Matt as our economic development lead. You will note in there that it does include potential for people to use public space that is actually car parking. What we're proposing at the moment is that council approve up to 12 car parks within that zone at the moment. We're excluding the smaller car parking like P15s, P5s, P30s because they generally have a purpose for a higher need for turnover. So we're proposing that of the car parks that are P120 or metered within those zones, they could potentially be considered. However, to sort of be sort of fair and equitable about the distribution of those, we have proposing that no application can apply for more than one and that they would be evenly distributed so that we don't have a big impact. We know this is a new policy, and so there is potential for a 12-month review. We're recommending that because we can test the policy. If it is identified that we need to tweak something, we've got that opportunity in 12 months. That also enables, there's also, a clause that enables anything that falls outside of the scope of the policy to come to council, so that if we did get a request that we haven't anticipated through the policy settings, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be dismissed. It would follow a different process. Because anything that involves car parking would require an amendment to the bylaw schedule, we are also suggesting that we establish a subcommittee. That would be a subcommittee of the Hearings Committee. The key reason for that is to enable a more responsive process. Otherwise, if someone was to apply and they went through whatever checks and balances needed to move the application forward, it would then need to go to council, which could take 6 weeks or more, depending on where they are in that process. By having a subcommittee, that would enable us to pull the committee together much more quickly and to be able to respond more quickly to whomever it was that wanted. Like, just to reiterate, that committee would only approve changes to the bylaw that are within the scope of the policy. Anything that needed a change to the bylaw itself or that was outside the scope would still come back to council. Factors like conditions of licence, that would take into consideration things like the re-establishment. If somebody, for whatever reason, potentially damaged the footpath as part of their, they would need to repair that and put it back to good spot. I think they're the key things. We're happy to take questions if people have questions relating to this.
We'll go Stella, Tim, and then I've got a couple of questions.
Yes, thank you for the report. And Karen, thank you for sending through the proposed fee structure late last night. I just do want to say though that I think having that earlier in the piece would have been really beneficial. It's quite good to have a policy and the fees aligned when we're reviewing all information given to us. For me, it was quite an important piece of information. But anyway, we got it, so thank you. What are businesses paying now in regards to fees?
Zero.
Oh, can I just, before we go into conversation two, it's really important that we don't mention business names during this conversation because that's commercially sensitive. So if you want to talk about examples, just keep the business name out of it.
Good.
Or person.
So what businesses are currently paying now?
So, like we suggest in the policy, historically things have been ad hoc. So there have been different arrangements, different uses.
Yep, okay, that's cool. And then my next thing was, have we benchmarked our policy against other councils? I'm interested to know what, and there was sort of nothing in the report about it, about what other councils are doing. And have we sort of gone out and done some research around that? Because I think it's important, especially when it comes to the fees, that we align ourselves. And I'm interested to see more around that, more information around that. It would sort of help my decision a little bit.
We looked at quite a broad range of policies. They are often called different things, so depending on how the council has framed it, anything from a road encroachment to an outdoor dining policy. So there's a range of policies and a wide range of different approaches. I think ours is we've taken what looks to have been some good practice from elsewhere, but also in the context of our community and Masterton needs.
So yes.
Thank you. Third question, sorry, my last, is say if this policy was adopted today, I'd like to understand how you will be going about communicating this to the businesses. And obviously there may be some backlash, there may be some negative feedback, and just how we're going to sort of appease it and manage that, because as elected members, I'm sure we will certainly hear some varying views on this. It's quite a strong policy, especially around the fees. People who haven't been paying anything, and then suddenly they're going to be paying something. I think it's important to understand that.
Yep, that's a good point. And one of the suggestions I neglected to mention is that we're actually proposing pushing the adoption date to 1 August for this. That will enable us a little bit more time, and the plan is for Matt to be working with our comms team. There would be some face-to-face visits to businesses that we understand have arrangements now, informal or formal, and then we would do a broader comms drop to businesses in that area to make sure that they're aware of the opportunity should they want to consider that themselves.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tim, and then Brent.
Thank you. With quite a few policies that we have, we workshop them, but this one hasn't been workshopped. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff in here that's potentially quite controversial or upsetting to some organisations. I'm just reading, and this is the first I've seen of this policy, unless I've missed something I don't think I have. Why do we not workshop this one and have those discussions to clarify things in our minds? We've got the paper on Friday, and I read it on Monday night, and I just feel like it's not enough for me to go ahead with the policy, to endorse it, when I would like to workshop it, like we did with the procurement policy and the street tree policy and other policies as well. And personally, that would be my preference, to actually workshop it. If we already know it's going to be pushed back to August the 1st, then I feel like a workshop would be really beneficial for me, perhaps for others.
So I've just got a few questions. There's a page 193, it talks about one block, one park. I can see the reason why, and that makes sense because average parking is 70%, so one car park is, it makes logistic sense. But what concerns me is that we've got two sides of the street. We've got a sunny side and we've got a not so sunny side. And we've got some of the blocks are longer, and it just worries me that if you said, well, there you go, certain business, you've got that one spot, and then right down the end of the other block, there's a perfect opportunity for someone to set up some outdoor space. I just personally think one per block is not enough because we have two sides of the street. The second question, so I'd just like you to comment on that. The other thing is you say you do a 12 monthly review, but the license is granted for 3 years. So is the 12 monthly review just tweaks to the policy, or is the 12 monthly review actually of the person who's taken a 3-year license, see that it's working satisfactorily?
The intent is for the maximum period that a license could be granted is 3 years. So it would be up to 3 years. And the intent with the policy is because it is a new policy that provides an opportunity to test the policy. And if council decide that they want to make changes in response, then we've got that opportunity. If there's a particular pattern of applications and we feel we need to shift something in that policy, we get that opportunity.
But are you also testing the business?
One of
the 12 months
proposals, I think it's signalled in the report, is that, particularly for people who might have bigger investments, is that, compliance with the policy and with the policy set an important part of this process. So we would need to be monitoring that and signalling that, if they were compliant, then they might have more opportunity to have their license extended. If they're not compliant, then there would be a regular sponsor.
Okay, my third question is not much of this worries me. The one thing that worries me though is the competitive advantage. And it talks about this on page 193, doesn't it? Just says, 187. Bear with me for a minute. It says goods and means the use of sale of goods in connection with that premise, right? But then it talks further on about within 3 months from commencement date, the occupier can. So that to me it means can someone set up seasonally? But there's a number of times where it talks about fairness and competition effects, and this area worries me because you've seen it when food trucks set up and restaurants and cafes are trying to sell their stuff, or you see, you might have a store in Queen Street that specialises in appliances, but then decides every summer they want to have a sunglasses site. They're random examples, but it worries me that we don't want to we want to enhance the CBD, but we don't want to be taking business off people that are already finding retail, a challenge. So can you talk to me about that and how that would be monitored?
So this policy doesn't cover mobile traders. The bylaws covers mobile traders. So for example, if I'm off head right, there's the space next to the library square, and then the alleyway, plus those areas at the moment, the bylaws can be for mobile trading in the sense of, say, the cookie time cookie people who pop up there and sell their cookies temporarily. So that is actually outside the scope of this policy, but it is monitored by our regulatory teams, environmental health. They do need to reach out and register, have permission.
So what's the difference between that and the minor classification, which says it's a small area, low impact, temporary and fully reversible?
The minor
Tables and chairs.
Yeah, essentially it would be like a small table and chair setting outside a shop, that we wouldn't have them go through as onerous a process. We would want them to register, and we know that they have that. But they wouldn't go through the same process as somebody that wanted to take a car park and expand their dining space into a car park.
For somebody random seasonally selling their wares, this isn't applicable.
No, this is for businesses that are anchored. It's basically anchored to businesses that are in our CBD or the other permitted areas now to be able to expand their business into the street.
But what if you had a business that sold stationery and then wanted to set up, it's a hot dog stand?
The stationery business wanted to set up a hot dog stand
over Christmas. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to make sure that it's foolproof.
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
The ancillary business, it does say it has to be associated with their business. So I think that would be if the stationery shop wanted to set up a display of stationery outside their shop, that would be associated with their business. I think we would look at a hot dog stand, not really.
Yeah, we just don't, the whole
aligning with their business purpose.
A retail is difficult enough. I just don't want to, I want to create an opportunity, but not an opportunity to make it more difficult for what we've already got, with also acknowledging that we can have competitive advantages.
And that's exactly the point. If they can set up and sell that inside, then it shouldn't be outside their shop. We don't want to be prohibitionists, because we live in a competitive market, and if the law allows them to sell that and they comply with our bylaws and our law, then there would be no reason to restrict it in that way.
Yeah, but
we don't want to be anti-competitive. We want to encourage people to actually, bring the town alive by having associated with their business.
Okay, we'll go to Brent, then AJ, and then Gary. Brent.
I just wonder, have you,
Are you conflicted, Brent, being in Queen Street?
No. Have you, involved the town centre revitalisation group? It's grown because we talked about things exactly like that. And, yeah, so have you involved them?
This policy hasn't been tested with them. It's an operational.
Okay. And the reason for having this policy is because my understanding is that there was one business that purchased quite a large space some years ago for over $40,000, and then 2 or 3 years later, let's say the mayor, bless her heart, granted a similar space to another cafe in town and gave them some potted plants and things
Just ask the question.
at no cost. I'll get there. Sorry, it's quite a long subject. So that's where it comes from. And I now hear that there are 4 or 5 other people interested, or are they some of them the self-same people? Because it strikes me that, you know, there may be one of them in Lansdowne, one of them in Kurupuni, and 2 in Masterton, and which would take it up to 4 in Masterton over the last 12 years. I don't know that we need a committee to handle this sort of thing. So I'm just wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about the pressure of people to take up these spaces and ask for them. Can you just add that one out a bit, please?
So I guess just to reiterate, the intent of policy is to avoid ad hoc decisions going forward. So we have a really clear, transparent process and policy in place that businesses know from 1 August, this is the process that you go through. These are the fees you will pay, etc. And the subcommittee is only proposed to deal with changes to the bylaw schedule that would result if it was an encroachment on the space. Under the bylaws, we have a schedule that lists, for example, all the P120 car parks. If there was approval for one of those P120 car parks to be used for one of these purposes, then we would need to amend the bylaw schedule. And at the moment, by enabling a subcommittee to deal with that, that would enable that decision to quickly.
Can I just respond as well that we did signal this in the LTA that we would be doing this policy because we've known that there's going to be pressure, and particularly when we are revitalising the town centre, now is exactly the time to have this policy.
Yes, and that's been ongoing for many years. The existing users actually conform with some rules, and council has always, correct me if I'm wrong, in the bulk of cases, council has forgiven any charging for all, but as far as I'm aware, 2 sites.
Have you got
There
another?
are about a dozen sites.
That's not the case. We have a number of licences and many more who would be affected by this policy that don't have current licences, so we don't have very robust agreements with those. And so this is all about making sure that everybody understands what's going on and everybody knows what rules that need to comply.
Yes, I do understand that.
You have another question?
Yep, I'm sorry, you had to be patient with me. In the document on page 188, it says under the objectives, point 5, to ensure appropriate cost recovery for council admin maintenance, management of public places used for commercial purposes. So that's the reason for the charges. And yet, when I read the charges, it breaks into a totally different language, which says charges ensure that ratepayers don't subsidise private commercial activity. I just think that maybe there was 2 different people doing it, and it's got horribly wrong because, you know, I don't know if you appreciate it, but the CBD area, the business areas you're talking about, they pay double the rate of anyone else for their value. Now, there's not, as far as I'm aware, any rationale behind that, but it's been long-standing and
What was your question, Brent?
and they pay it. So the question is, can you explain the disparity between ensuring appropriate cost recovery and charges that ensure ratepayers don't subsidise commercial activity? Vast difference.
Yeah, so I think one of the things is we have a system at the moment where through almost accidental location, some businesses are provided with a resource that other businesses don't outside the front of their businesses. So this is about supporting businesses in the CBD that do pay rates, that are our ratepayers, to consider how they might operate in the spaces outside their business. And those who don't happen to be on certain areas that have build outs might also want to explore that. So we're trying to make it fair to all those businesses, while also recognising that if you're growing your business and operating in public space, you are using public good to enhance your business. And we know that some businesses, it can be quite lucrative, the tables that they have outside or the stalls that they have outside, and that is an advantage they have on neighbouring businesses that don't have that. So we're trying to create an equitable system where if you are a ratepayer in the CBD, you have an opportunity to explore this opportunity as well.
Do you have another question? Or we can come back to you.
Just the question about accident of location and just a clarification, because in 1996 they redesigned Queen Street and they gave it a shaping with these big wide areas on the corner and narrow areas where the parking was in the middle. And since that time, some people have set up businesses that can utilise the big wide areas. And because at the beginning of this paper, it talks about increasing the vitality of the town. And so my question to you, is there any public good in having a vital town?
Right.
Or is it purely a commercial good?
Well,
So if
both.
Hmm?
It's both.
Oh, it is both.
Yeah.
Okay, Brent, you've asked your question.
Okay.
Well, he hasn't answered it.
Huh?
We've got other people now who want to ask.
Yeah, I'm so, well, someone else can go and I'll have another crack.
You can catch his breath.
Yeah,
Go as long as the meeting goes for. There's no time for
there
it.
is
No, you have a go. I don't want to,
mention.
I don't want to bore
There's
people.
no rush.
Councillor Lennox, then Gary.
So this is more to do with the fees, and I know we're here to discuss the policy, but I think the two go hand in hand. So in regards to the proposed fee structure, for me personally, I'd like to get an idea of what other councils are charging, because I've done a little very quick search now, and it's quite clear that we're relatively high in what we're proposing to charge our businesses. And my biggest concern there is already they're struggling, especially those on the Queen Street currently with the great work that we're doing. Retail and all hospitality areas is, you know, hard struck at the moment financially. So my biggest concerns around the fees is A, are they relatively priced comparable to other areas? And secondly, is understanding the real need, and Mr. Goodwin did just bring that up, understanding the real need as to why we do need to throw a fee onto our businesses, because some of those fees are pretty substantial. I've been in retail before and I know how tough it is, and that would basically put me off doing anything outside of my shop. So I'd like to see that before I kind of make any decision today, to be honest, around that.
So, when we previously talked about the lease charging for community sports, there's no consistency across the country. So some councils charge much less, some councils charge more, some councils charge for essentially occupying a car park, some don't. So we're acting on a direction that we received as part of the open process about ensuring that we maximise fees and charges where possible. So one of the big aspects is that charge for the removal of the car park. So we've essentially calculated that based on what we charge for car parks, etc. So when a car park disappears, that revenue does not then disappear. Because that is a revenue stream for council to pay for the services, in this case, roading services. So by removing that, that then creates a hole, whatever that hole is.
Yeah.
So for a car park, it's roughly $2,500.
Yeah.
That is then $2,500 that needs to come from somewhere.
And that is totally acceptable, and I'm all for that, but it's those other areas that
Yeah.
I have a big question mark around, and I'm concerned as to how it's going to pan out, I guess, for our business.
Just ask though, I think we're looking at the policy
Yes,
today.
I know.
Confirming
I
the
did-
pricing, that's correct.
Yes, the fees and charges come for decision out of the annual plan. Today is around policy setting.
And also too, having only received them last night, it wasn't available. I haven't had a chance to look at the pricing. So to me, we're just addressing the policy today.
And that was the intent for having separate, is that we don't want to get distracted by the fees for the policy itself. The policy, is and we can certainly address the fees, and it would be helpful if you have comments around those fees that you've seen that we can address ahead of or we can include in the report for next week. But just to follow up on your question around the why are there the other fees, that's to cover the cost of administration for receiving an application in, and that will be through the taking care of business process, and then it will be covering the costs of a license. So those are things that we ordinarily charge on. So if we get a consent that comes in, or somebody has an application that they want to open a hairdresser's, then those fees are passed on to those businesses. So we'll be treating these businesses just the same as. We can address that in the report for next week.
Gary, then AJ, then Tim.
Just another point to this, and I'm speaking on behalf of the disability group that we have here at council. And one of the things that has been raised quite often has been the fact that getting down some areas of the CBD is the people on scooters and wheelchairs. And I was looking at this and thinking, has the accessibility side of this been considered in this policy?
Yes, that is one of the criteria that would be considered for any application coming in around safety, accessibility. Because obviously we don't want to create spaces that create barriers, that balancing act.
Yeah, it's just, and I've got a little bit of sympathy for Tim's remark right at the start here of perhaps having a little bit more debate over this, because I would actually have liked to see the Disability Action Group actually involved in the whole procedure here. They're a very big part of our community now, and I just have a feeling that a policy like this is going to impact on them probably as much as it'll impact on anybody. So I would actually like to see them involved, and so I think if we can delay this decision and perhaps do a little bit more consultation with those sort of people, I think there would be advantages.
AJ, then Tim.
You touched on the bump out spaces and the design of Queen Street. Is any Queen Street business able to apply for a license of a bump out space?
So under this policy, if you are where the bump out space is, you could apply. We wouldn't be promoting another business coming up and set up outside another business, because we're not in this discussion of competition and stuff. We don't want to encourage people to come set up outside and create competition. That would not be one, benefiting commercial businesses that are our ratepayers, and two, it would just create a whole heap of mess. So it would be essentially the space outside of your business would be where you would be able to apply for, not outside anyone else's business.
But if there's areas that aren't currently being used, is there an opportunity?
So that would be through the bylaws and the street trading.
Yes. So there is a way or a mechanism. Thinking about, for example, outside the old post office building, there's that very big area that gets used for some bits and pieces, which isn't the what did you call them? The mobile trader area.
Yeah.
But there is a space there, and that would go through the committee to have a conversation around that.
No.
If somebody applied.
It would be a policy exception that would end this.
So that would need to come to.
I think another point too, just to maybe almost touch a little bit back on Councillor Cabell's point too, is that written into the policy is the need to consultation process around specific proposals. Because if we did get a proposal come through that somebody wanted to do something and we looked at that and thought that actually needs to be consulted on, we can elevate up. So that is where if there was a specific proposal that felt perhaps the disability advisory group should be consulted about, or adjoining businesses or anybody else, that would be a process too, because until we actually get applications, we don't know who the affected parties are for each of those particular applications. So just to note that too.
Tim,
Thank you. I spoke about 20 minutes ago and I didn't actually get an answer to my thing about workshops, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to suggest a recommendation, a change to the recommendation, bearing in mind what we discussed about procedure a couple of meetings ago, being able to do so. And my recommendation would be along the lines of council receives the report, the first consideration of the use of public spaces in adjoining premise policy, request officers facilitate a workshop for elected members on the proposed policy, including its purpose, implementation, operational implications, enforcement considerations, and any other options considered, and then request officers report back policy back to council for consideration following the workshop. So that would be a recommendation.
just, seconded by councillor Goodwin. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. I just wanted to, because you said that depending on where you are, I think you called it, what did you call it, Brent? Not the luck, you accident. It was accidental location. I think that, you know, those businesses that sit in the middle of the street, you know, would be less likely to have like equal opportunity to apply for place, unless, and have we considered what impact that would have if they chose the middle park, you know, in a stretch of parks? That's one thing. I'll just say it all at the same, but all at once. So, and then also, I don't know if you've ever been to town with 5 children under 8. I have. And it's a very, it's, what are you laughing? It's very crazy. Like as a mother, yeah, with 5 kids trying to find a park in the CBD, and that, you know, that poses other issues. So I would actually not like to see any reduction of car parks in the CBD for that reason, because we have to consider that we're a growing population and that there are a lot of people with kids, multiple children under certain ages, and they're hard to wrangle, especially when you're a single, like a mum on your own, when dad's at work. Build up.
I've got a question. So what, following on from the councillor there, so would that suggest that the properties that have those nice big sort of spaces in front are actually worth a lot more in the prime real estate compared to other properties? So therefore, the landlord or the owner of that building can probably command more rent at the cost of the community or the public space for that.
We'll come to you, Brent. My comment following on that from 2 is I think it's prime real estate. Like with everything prime real estate, I agree that it should be charged reasonably. And that if people have an add-on benefit, there should be a fee for that. I also wouldn't want to inhibit commercial progression, but it's difficult to find a compromise.
Should be used.
But I still think we need a policy, absolutely, because otherwise it's unfair, and we're not in the business of being unfair. Brent,
Are we still discussing my
No, we don't.
recommendations?
this is discussion on Tim.
Yeah.
Yes, no, Brent. Oh, sorry, then you.
Heaven forbid I interrupt.
This is discussion.
Yeah, discussion, but am I allowed to, I'll discuss it rather than ask.
And we don't want you.
Can I ask a question?
No,
No, okay, a discussion
about Tim's recommendation.
is the way we collect revenue as a council. And we tend to have land value and capital value rating. So a property that values higher, unless I'm mistaken, pays more. And in the case of a business, pays twice as much as anyone else. And that is how your issue is picked up, I would have thought.
But I think also to add to that, I'll comment back, is that the land, say you've got that bit of space in front of your building,
Yep.
the landlord can command more rent for that space, can't they? I would suggest they could.
Depends if the tenant uses it, and there's only, you tell me how many of those wide spaces in town
It's quite
are
a,
used by tenants. Is not many,
it's quite a few.
very few. I'll go for a walk with them.
You know, let's do that.
But you pay for your water connection even if you don't turn your tap on. So it's the same with the land outside your retail shop.
Doesn't sound like my recommendation.
No, but I think
Anyway, Brent.
it's been a great recommendation.
same.
No, Tyler?
Sorry, I just want to provide a clarification as well around concerns around utilisation of car parking. We have had studies undertaken in very recently in respect to parking utilisation. General car parking is about 50 to 60% utilised in the peak periods for the Marsden. Now there's a differentiation with mobility parks. Those are very highly utilised by the disability community and fundamentally is used by people that have disability parking, so they have those requirements for parking. But general car parking is, in terms of a good utilisation, you're aiming for about 85%, so it's significantly underutilised within Marsden. And that we've got evidence for that.
Thank you, Tyler. What I'd like to do is put.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
finished my discussion.
Okay.
You mind if I go to the toilet?
Yep.
Yeah, the car parking survey you mentioned, by the way, was highly criticised by some councillors, and it was done in the middle of COVID, and it did underrepresent the typical loading of our car parking in some opinions.
Yeah.
Um,
It was 20.
can I just ask one thing? Have you considered, so just let's say, so on one side of the road we have parallel parks and on the other angle parks quite often.
Hey, we're discussing Tim's recommendation.
Yeah, sit down now.
So I just wanted to clarify something.
Away from the table.
We can do it in the workshop.
Yeah, we can do it at the workshop.
And just to clarify that, the car parking study wasn't done during COVID, done in 2020.
Yeah, and I was on the revamp group and we advocated for, or I advocated.
So was councillor Goodwin incorrect in stating
Yeah,
that
But anyway,
the parking study was done during COVID?
he made it up. But we're coming back to the recommendation, which has been moved and seconded.
When was COVID?
Was moved, excuse me,
Sorry.
was moved by councillor Nelson and seconded by councillor Goodwin.
But okay.
We've finished discussion. I'm going to put that to the vote, so we'll just read it through. Thank you very much, Harriet. Receives the report, defers consideration. In the meantime, requests officers facilitate a workshop for elected members on everything. Request officers report the policy back to council for consideration following the workshop. We have a mover and a seconder. Put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Tanya and Matt. Go to 7.5, April 2026 weather event recovery funding approval. And we've got Tyler and Tanya. Welcome. Seen you for a while, Kate?
Te koutou katoa.
You've been busy.
Yeah, been busy. So this report relates to the 2026 April weather event and seeks approval to progress the remaining recovery works required to restore the network back to its previous level of service. So between the 20th and 22nd of April, we experienced a rainfall event that was associated with a wider Wellington state of emergency. We received about 240 millimetres of rain over 48 hours in some areas, which resulted in sort of flooding, slips, washouts, bridge damage, and a number of closures on our rural roads. Most of the heavily affected areas were Matakona, Tanui, Bitterford, Morrisville. Many of these roads were closed during the event. Immediately following the event, we got our contractors involved in the response phase. Focus was on restoring safe access, clearing slips, reopening roads, and reinstating drainage, removing quite a bit of forestry slash from the bridges as well, and assessing some of the complex failures. Those response works are almost complete or nearing completion. Total estimated cost of that is around $770,000. The recovery phase focuses on more large and more complex repairs that couldn't be addressed during the initial response. These sites require engineering assessment, design work, and further approvals from NZTA before construction can proceed. The key recovery sites predominantly located on Matakona Road and First Hill, Inedale Road, and some Marston Cuss Point Road. Estimated cost for the recovery works is 1.1 million approximately, bringing the total event to 1.9 million. An application has been lodged with NZTA for emergency works for funding. Assuming the approval is approved, the funding assistance rate is 6%. So the council's share of the cost for response and recovery together would estimated to be approximately $844,000. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Gifford?
Can you remind me where we are? It's in a later report. Well, no, the numbers aren't in a later report. How's our rehabilitation percentage?
Question
The
should,
target is 2%.
excuse me, councillor Goodwin.
What
Councillor Goodwin,
sitting on?
the question should be relevant to the report that we're discussing today.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to get in context where we are with our rota. So I'm just curious about the rehabilitation.
It's not relevant to this discussion. This is about the recovery fund approval.
I could certainly ask those questions through Tyler later.
Thank you. Are there any-
We also have an activity report of infrastructure coming up shortly, so here we go.
Well, it's not in there, but.
Sit down.
Ask the question then if you like.
Thank you. Can you keep the questions relevant to what the report is, please? Are there any questions of Kane? No.
Sorry to be in front of you again, so close to another event. Thank you very much.
You can't help.
So do we have a mover, please, councillor Holmes, and a seconder? Yep. Councillor Caffel, and all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Kane. And Tyler?
You must.
We're on to page 209, reports for information, and we're welcome to. Hello.
Thanks.
So we'll go to Marsden District Council Water Conservation Management Plan. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you. I'll take this as read. This is a consent requirement for our extraction from the Wainara River. Water Conservation Management Plan is an update from the previous plan. Very much focuses on smart meters, the reduction of leakage, and information and education through the community around management and conservation of water. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Goodwin.
So I was curious with the declining due to lower household occupancy.
Correct.
Where Matt Hill gave us some figures on out of the annual plan rating units and population. And the population, the number of rating units hasn't increased very much at all, which I assume is implying an increase in density. So I'm just curious where you get that from.
There is some demographic information which is applied to calculation of water usage through the course of assigning the conservation measures. What we do know is that Masterton District is still a lot higher than the national average for water use. And so certainly the smart meters and the conservation of water is still going to be topical regardless of household size across the district.
Are there any other questions? No. Can I have a mover for the report, please?
I'll move it.
Councillor Bowyer and seconded by Councillor Holmes. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. Just very evident that the good work by putting the water meters in is working. And there's no doubt about it that it's going to go a long way into getting our consent as well.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Put the motion forward. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Page 218, infrastructure activity report. Over to you, Tyler.
Thank you. So I'm going to take the opportunity with Anne being available to talk a bit more to the roading contribution of the Francis report. There's a lot of highlights, I guess, across the last 1-2 months in respect to different parts of the program. The team gearing up in respect to procurement and delivery of key items across that roading program as well. And then also planning for, I guess, the next year's phase of works delivery of this particular National Land Transport Program. Kane, do you want to highlight any of those highlights there?
Yes, so we've finished most of our renewals program for the financial year, and we achieved just under probably a 1%, but we'll be making final adjustments for those activity reports for NZTA and getting a final figure for rehabs and for resales of around 6%. We've started work on 2 bridge replacements, which is quite a big milestone for Upper Wainawa and Graham's. Graham's is underway now. Teams going in. They're going really well into the program. We've finished quite a few stormwater improvement projects that have fared really well during the both the February and April events. So we've got really good value money out of those two projects that we've got underway this year. There's been very little damage on those sites. We've obviously got quite a big program still of just fixing the response stuff from the 2 events we've had this year. They're major highlights. I think we've got quite a bit of work to do with the maintenance contract, as Tyler said, to renew it and get it back out to market at the end of this year. And it's a big milestone for us that year too, which we're working on now.
I believe it's currently out on GETS as an advance notice relation to contractors.
Questions? Councillor Lennox, then Gary, and I've got one, and then Brent.
Thank you, Tyler, for the report. Just a couple of questions. In regards to the activation space that's installed currently, our understanding, well, my understanding certainly was that it was a temporary structure, but I see just driving past today that the trees are actually planted in the ground. That concerns me because we were very much aware that they were going to be put into planters, not actually permanently planted. Do you want me to do each question at a time? It's probably.
Oh, no, I was going to go through each of the items.
Oh, were you? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
yeah, then we'll talk about the activation space.
Okay, so what do you want to do? Should I just?
These were questions for roading.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my apologies. I thought.
Okay.
Yep, all good.
All right.
Well, I'll have my questions when the time comes.
Gary, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. On the footpaths, it just interests me, and maybe something I missed. It says that all 2005-26 funding has been allocated to the CBD footpaths infrastructure program. So that's meant that all other footpaths programs hasn't happened because of the infrastructure program.
Exactly right.
So we're basically 12 months behind or whatever on our footpaths, is that?
Yeah, it would mean less work has been done in the footpath space that would have been done amongst the other network, yeah. So
But those footpaths are high use facilities and multi-use as well across the different parts of the community. So I believe we're probably going to be playing catch up with other parts of, well, I guess other footpaths, but certainly not as pedestrianised as.
Yeah, I just asked that question because I get a number of people, particularly scooter users, who tell me how bad our footpaths are and when this street and that street's being done. So obviously at the moment, none of the streets are being done. That'll be on the next year's program.
yeah, my engineer is now creating the chess program, which is outside the CBD to do sites outside.
Okay.
Brent?
Yeah, I just wanted a general comment. I mean, maybe you wait until LTP, but you know, we're behind on footpaths. We're below target yet again on rehabilitation, the NZTA target. And we're also behind on the targets, their targets for reseal. I'm just wondering when we get to say, well, gosh, we've got a liability of 8, 10, 12 million or something. When are we going to?
I've got a workshop with you on the 8th on our bid, where I'll cover some of the the network statistics, and I don't think we're in that big of a hole. It's quite, I think the network's stable in my opinion. There's work to be done in some areas, but I'll show you where I think we need to go in that workshop with our bid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just one, with the last storm we had, Kane, when the 7 metre waves, did it affect Kona?
No, we were quite lucky. The waves came up the coast. Yeah. The direction of the wave didn't affect both Casabona, Matakona, and the way. So we've got a way of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're lucky we were monitoring, and part of what we're doing with civil defence is keeping a track record, gets a log of the different types of events and how the networks responded. So that type of event, we were lucky it was a bit more easterly than other.
Southeast, straight easterly.
Yeah, you can see the prevailing waves.
Thank you. Any other questions or Rhoda? No, thank you, Kate. So now we'll move on to utilities. Tyler.
So utilities is they're continuing with their renewals program at the moment. So Millard and Derby has been commissioned in terms of a main renewal. So that's another significant project. There's been some delays in around procuring that because of alignment with the NZTA initially, and then NZTA has backtracked on doing that particular work in and around High Street. So now Millard is being brought forward. Tanui Raw Water has had their, after the previous event when the raw water supply was severed across the stream, turned into a torrent, that's been re-established and made more resilient off the back of the work that's done just recently. We've also got boundary inspection kits installed across Tanui. There's still a significant amount of stormwater infiltration into the Tanui wastewater system. And so what the team will be undertaking is, once we get enough rainfall, is inspections to assess where that stormwater is coming from to try to reduce that infiltration so that we get better performance out of this the wastewater network there. The renewals program is continuing. The Nikau Heights Reservoir is being finalised for procurement also. So we're looking to take that out to the market in the next month, possibly month and a half, once we go through the procurement documents and define the strategy for going and approaching the market. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I've got a question. Utilities. I noticed you put next steps for the organics feasibility study. That's my question. It was a long time. I can't even remember when, maybe 3 years ago that it came up on our radar. And personally, I don't support a pilot. I also know that it's been very unsuccessful in some other places, and it's an additional cost. And there's only, my understanding is, small percentage of our not our population, of other populations in other areas that take advantage of it, but it's quite an intricate service delivery and a high cost. So I would like to revisit that and wonder if there's an opportunity. Stella, did you want to ask about it too?
Yeah, I was. Thank you for your report on utilities. This is the utility. Yes, Bex, I was also question mark that because I felt like that conversation had been had and that horse had already bolted and we weren't covering that anymore. But I do have another question, but are you still in your question?
I think Karen was just and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's included in the waste minimisation plan, that we had the regional plan and an hour delivery part on that from the Wailat Upper. And of course we get our levy funding based on what's in that minimisation plan. So we can look into how we might take that matter forward.
Yeah, I just think it needs to be a offline kind of conversation again, just to revisit that. Yeah, because there wasn't an appetite for it at the time, but
Do that.
So could we talk about that another time?
Yes, we can.
Yep. Stella, you had another question?
Yes, it was just around the service requests. I know it's not massive increases, but I would like to understand a little bit of commentary around the water. Like, is it a certain area around town that the requests were made? Like, were there any themes or whatever? I just know that sometimes a small increase over quite a few months can turn into a big problem. So are there any concerns that you identified with those service requests.
I'll
Grace.
get some more information from the team as to whether or not there's a cluster review that they focus on. Liaising with them, there's been quite a lot more work that's been done over the last months around wastewater systems and stormwater with some of the events that we've had. But I haven't got enough information from them around water specific. So I'll get detail and circulate.
Yeah, and maybe interested to know that hopefully nothing to do with the meters or, you know, just, yeah, it'd be good to get a little bit more commentary. Great, thank you.
Craig?
Yeah, I've got two questions. Incoming tonnage. Yeah, seemed to be a huge spike in clean fill and construction demolition. Are we not charging these people enough?
That's a good question.
Are they coming from outside the district? Or?
I'll have to get some more information as to perhaps some of the reasons or observations for the spike.
Yeah.
Transfer of permanent through our transfer station.
And my other question is, global stormwater consent sounds expensive.
I believe consenting anything that touches consenting nowadays does require a reasonable amount of concerted effort and focus. So the global stormwater consent is something that, yes, we do need to keep in place. There's a reasonable amount of testing and utilisation of assets like Henley Lake, Q2 Park as part of the stormwater network. And it is part of the wider discussion with YT as well in respect to those assets. And transfer of that consent ultimately.
The global component is rather than doing singular consents for each discharged area, we do a global consent.
Yeah, so it's not globalism, the globe.
No, it's more around, let's do one collective consent. So
Stella?
Sorry, I just have one more question. Just clarification, because I feel like I might have this wrong. Just around the water storage, it says investigation into land options for untreated. Land acquisition will be required for the treated. So we've already got land up there, correct?
We have land, but it might not be absolutely appropriate for a gravity system, even a pumping system for potable water. So that's part of the investigation at the moment is, do we have land that is either available to us or that we can enter into negotiations with the landowner to purchase to provide a suitable site that's not just functionally suitable, but also more resilient.
That's good, thank you. Yeah, because I was sort of like, we already own the land, so that's fine. So just the correct, we need in the right type of land.
Correct. Raw water storage, yes, we do the land. Potable water is some aspect.
Yep, thank you for clarifying.
Any more questions on utilities? No, thank you. Compliance and assets.
So the compliance and assets, I guess a lot of the focus is around drinking water standards, particularly with smart, the new entity based down in Wellington fundamentally. So the drinking water quality assurance rules and specific requirements in respect to working with Wainuiaru water scheme. So the team is engaging with the committee, and you're going to be getting information from the different users of the scheme to ensure that they have the correct drinking water, UV treatment, and other facilities available to them on each site, so that they are complying with Taumata Arawai's requirements, so they're compliant and there isn't a risk of enforcement action in the future. Three Waters asset data is another key focus for that compliance and assets team. Essentially, we've got a dearth of a broad range of different asset information, which is being forwarded collectively into a single GIS system to then transfer that over to the entity when it is formally established next year. Quite a large exercise that the team for that. We're working through other backlogs in respect to work across the different teams from a geospatial perspective, so that we can dedicate our geospatial resource to that. The critical assets around asset methodology and asset management plans are currently in progress. We've received the beginnings of the drafts, and we're starting to provide feedback on those asset management plans across all other activities. This is a little bit separate to the roading activity and asset management plan, which has been undertaken by the Kane and his roading team. Happy to take any questions about compliance and assets.
Brent?
Just that, it's fantastic to see the contamination for curbside recycling drop from 18 down to 4%.
That's good.
Can I ask what was there appetite? Is there an ongoing campaign, or what do you think led to that?
Oh, certainly better education around what's acceptable. And just the monitoring over time. So the monitoring will establish a trend. So it might be a good month that there was less contamination, or less, maybe possibly the quarter. We'll make that assessment across the course of the year once we see the trend line as to what is actually happening with contamination.
Okay, thank you. And on to projects. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's been a lot of activity, a lot of progress with the projects that are in development. Town Hall demolition and the activation works, of course, we can see it on the main street that there has been significant progress. The activation space, we held the workshop with council back in May, and we're still getting, feasibility information coming through around new Town Hall. We expect to deliver something to council more tangible at the end of mid to end of July. The new library is making substantial progress and on course for delivery. We're working with landowners, or a landowner, around the easement issue at the moment. Animal shelter, I believe the elected members went through the animal shelter a couple of weeks ago, so that's operating. There's, I believe, one item to complete for the certificate of compliance, which is currently underway and about to be finished before the end of the month. Queen Street Municipal Building is also making good progress against program. That program is looking to have that complete within September, October. CBD infrastructure upgrade is also making good progress on program. In terms of health and safety matters, we do have a good health and safety rep, which is tracking what's happening. We do have a concern around members of the public and businesses moving temporary traffic management either out of where it should be or removing it so that they can access the site. So the team is looking at remedies, and they're going to start with education before anything more significant is taken place, and then we'll be able to keep track of that and report on the results of health and safety in and around the area. There haven't been any incidents, but the removal of temporary traffic management equipment is quite a significant concern. Memorial Park is making really good progress. They're making substantial gains in respect to the fact that the scaffolding's been in place to undertake a lot of activities. For water storage, yes, we've got, we talked about that before around the resource requirements for water storage reviewed, geotech investigations underway. We've got engineering consultants which are looking to undertake the design requirements for water storage. Treated water, we've noted before, in discussion with a couple of landowners around potential sites, but also undertaking investigations for a broader area that council also owns. The Kids Zone Playground is making good progress, so the engagement is closed. Good response from the community, well, excellent response from the community. And also acknowledge the efforts of the team to be down on site with the Kids Zone Playground, presenting material and working with schools to get information in. The survey of the work is completed and analysis is currently underway. The parking infrastructure replacement is a new item on here, but we do have a preferred supplier selected, and negotiations are continuing through into June. We have noted here a top issue and risk, which is probably something that's topical at the moment with all councils, is the fuel price volatility. So whilst our contractors have flagged that it's a concern for them, we're working through them on a contractual basis and guidance from government before agreeing to any price increases or escalation within contract if that's allowed.
Okay, I've got a question. I'm just hoping with the new parking infrastructure that ease of use is top of mind, because I recently presented to Granfurly Club, Henley Men's Shed and Rotary. And one of the things was brought up by all those groups was, is it going to be easy to use? You know, so a flash of a card or a number plate so I don't know where we're at with that, but I'd like to be reassured.
Oh, correct. Laura, so Laura is our lead PM for parking infrastructure. We able to provide a bit of an update around thoughts for ease of use and the facility.
So it was one of our requirements. When we went out, it had to be easy to use. I'd seen the machines. They seem very basic, but you know, anyone can get tripped up by anything. So we want to make sure that we're really showing people how to use them. So the intention is that in addition to rolling out parking meters on site, we'll also have meters in Wider House of Queen Street, around the table. It'll be Wider House and also the temporary library. So that if people want to know how to use them, we can show them.
Great idea.
So that, and there'll be people, when they actually get rolled out, we'll have people walking the streets, showing people how to use them. It is a slight change because it'll be moving from pay by space to pay by plate. So there will be slight changes, but we'll make sure that we bring the community along the journey.
It's terrific. Thank you. On that, yep, Stella.
I just want to first acknowledge the very small but mighty project team. I get quite excited being an elected member, reading this page of all this good stuff that we're doing and committed to delivering for our community. But I know that as far as project managers, you're a small team, so you're punching out some pretty awesome amount of work. So I just want to acknowledge that. First things first. So around the activation space, my first question, we were led to believe that, that the space was temporary. I feel like it's looking more permanent and the trees have been planted in ground versus being planted as we had been told.
So we've looked at, we're always looking at how can we deliver this space within a very constrained budget, because we don't want to take away from any future spend for a town hall. So we've worked with our Green by Nature, who are the parks contractor, and so we've put trees in the ground down the northern end only. So we've looked at the feasibility study designs and focused on where could we put something that actually provides a bit of a canopy in that space. If we were to proceed with the spacings of that sort of design, there'd be no impact. All we'd be doing is putting in a car park that could then be used. In that planting, I've looked at the overlays and they don't interact. So that could be a more temporary, a more permanent space. If it's not, if the design that we choose to go down requires the whole site, removing those plants and trees and putting them into, say, QE2 Park is very achievable, because they're not too hard to live down.
Okay, cool. Great answer. Thank you. My other question was around just the town hall, obviously. The next steps, when will the elected members get to see something else?
So we are expecting an updated full costing report at the end of July. Okay. So that's when we'll have everything from the what it won't then have, and we'll be working alongside that, is what does it mean in terms of operational costs as well. So packaging the two together so that an informed decision can.
Okay, awesome. And I think that was my only question. So thank you.
Gary, then Warika.
Yeah, I just follow Councillor Lennox and saying, Laura and co, you've done a terrific job. You look at the amount of work that's going on. From my point of view, it's just tremendous to see everything that was started in the last 3 years starting to really shape, and it's great. But my question is the Queen Street Municipal Building, you've got on track to be complete early October. Does that mean that the emergency management premises and the new place for the council to meet, will that all be complete by early October?
It will be, yeah. The whole site will be complete.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
Within time, within budget. There we go.
You're saying it's within budget?
No,
Keeping you to that, sir.
Wairika, then Brent, then Stella.
I'm turning into
And then-
Ta-da! I was just listening to your kōrero about the traffic management and the loss of, because I feel like I did raise early on that the number of parkings that have been lost from traffic management was quite excessive. Obviously I don't have a background in traffic management, my husband does, but I didn't ask him the question whether it was excessive or not. But also considering, because that area that's currently being utilised is probably the highest traffic area. Is there room for us to reduce the number of car parks that are being used on the side streets?
It's a very good question. I know certainly this is my experience with construction and temporary traffic management is that usually if you're making concessions around space and car parking, you have to make concessions around length of program and the amount of activity that can be done by contractors on site. Because at the moment, I believe it's designed so that you maintain a good level of access into existing shops, particularly through the pedestrianised sort of maze method that they have within the temporary traffic management, but particularly for areas like, say, the street building, municipal building, that there is a lot of a staging that's required, and we need a 24/7 temporary TMP in place to be able to allow that to happen. And it will be hungry for car parks, but we are working with contractors to minimise the number of workers which are then also occupying other car parks in and around the area. I think if that's correct.
So for the CBD, both sides of the road are taken, and that's a safety and program. That reduces the cost. It speeds up the full closures, and also it's significantly safer for the people they're doing what they're doing. So that will be, I believe, until the end of July, and then they'll look to reduce down to one lane. So that way they'll then open up each side of the road until that phase is completed. With the Queen Street works, I know that it is having an impact on businesses. Not only we've taken 3 car parks through traffic management for the Queen Street work, the 161 Queen Street works, but also the concern around tradies parking in any other available spaces. So that's something we're constantly talking to the contractors, asking their standard or their toolbox meetings, make sure your covering off don't need to be parked directly outside the market. Please go and park somewhere else. And we are very mindful of it, and we've spoken to our enforcement team as well about making sure that they're keeping on top of turnover of vehicles and people who may not be paying.
And sorry, just is that in reference to the side?
That's
Not to
Bannister-
Queen
that's
Street?
Bannister Street.
Yeah, Bannister's cool.
Thank you. Brent, then Stella.
So that, you'll come back at the end of July with a town hall costings
Will be the design feasibility report from the consultant.
and operational costs? Yes. And when's the decision? What follows that?
So there's a council meeting in early August, which I don't think we're going to be able to hit in terms of absorbing the information that we get. There is also a council meeting in September. We'll try and see what the timelines look like in terms of when we can get you all together to present those findings. So it'll be somewhere between end of July and September around June.
And is that when we vote on?
Vote on what? Town hall's already been voted on, just needs to come within a budget.
Budgets, I would imagine.
But yeah,
So we might look at the
but
budget.
if it comes within budget, it doesn't need to be voted on.
We'll take direction.
We go to, Stella doesn't have a question now. Tim. Then AJ.
What's that easement concern? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Is it a significant concern with the library project?
library, yeah.
Oh, it's similar to an easement that we were on the landowners to take the building over. So when you have services within an easement, you need landowners' permission to go across the boundary with any of the works that we're doing.
Just with the town hall, so just to clarify, it's $25 million that's covering the demolition the activation space that's being developed, and the activation space being removed, and all the planning, all the scope, the delivery of a completed town hall for $5 million. And we can't go over that $25 million.
Correct.
Thank you. And just one more question. With the contractors, you spoke about, what's in the report about fuel costs. I would assume that everything that they're using for this project would have been pre-ordered before the fuel crisis. When they, if they were to come back to us with significant cost increase, every single one of those cost increase would have to be justified, wouldn't it? It's not going to be, we're putting the price up by 15%, what would be, we're putting the price up because of these specific things that are directly related to the fuel crisis.
So the contract has escalation requirements. So, and the good thing with the contract, we recognise the price tension back on council as well. So even at their recommendation, we've been going through doing quarterly reviews of escalation. And the reason for that is that if we keep it to a year and they escalate for the year, particularly with say, for example, with the roading contracts, we're locked into that escalation for the following year, even if prices come down.
Yeah.
And so they're very mindful about how they interact with us as well to make sure that we're being efficient with our budgets. But then also being fair to them within their contract terms, if what they can raise as matters for escalation, and price tension is currently one of those.
Okay. Have you ever known of a case where a contractor's come to you to identify fuel costs coming down and there's going to be cost decreases?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So certainly with the roading contracts, that's what they've been doing. So acknowledging that on a full basis they don't go up, but the opportunity comes down is also captured within that escalation. And so that was at their initiation that they brought that to council. So the contractors are very mindful that they're not they're taking a more open book and transparent approach with escalation. And again, it's that risk if we didn't do that we have an annual escalation which captures all of this escalation over the course of the year. We get locked into that for the following year and we pay significantly more for the next 12 months.
Thank you.
David.
Tyler, with the water storage, you said here that consent requirements for 797 Upper Plain Road, I presume that is the water treatment plant?
It's the area where the raw water storage is currently, and all that land beside it.
And then you say that quotes have been received for geotechnical investigation currently under review. Now, what is that for? Is that for making the walls on the existing ponds higher, or is it looking at establishing another pond above the?
So that all those areas that they're looking to establish the new storage, a new pond storage, Tukey's dam, I think.
So new pond reservoir just above the existing one. Thank you. And I just wondered the discussion with the landowner regarding purchase of a suitable site for treated water. I suspect that is for some sort of a tank system, is it?
Correct.
For treated water. Thank you.
AJ, then Brent.
Thanks for the report and total good the comments around the amount of work, not just in this report, but in previous reports too, Kane, dealing with storm damage, etc. Two questions. My first one is the Amber Light system. Does that take into account financials as well? So your financials are currently on track also for each of these?
Yeah, finances and program, fundamentally, they're intricately linked. So any risk we have to program, inevitably on cost.
And then my last question was just further to Tim's comment around the easement. Appreciate there might be some sensitivity, but are we near the end of finding a resolution on that?
We are. Yes, you were pretty.
Brent.
With the library project, will they be waterproofing the basement? And will that be a permanent solution going forward so they can use it?
I imagine it's probably part of the scope. I'll have to go and double check.
Yes.
I don't know that it would be used like from a public perspective, but they've certainly found a solution to the basement. I just can't recall what it is.
So it'll be, all I'm worried about is if it'll be useful space to whoever.
We'd have to confirm.
Yeah. At least there's more across that.
Any other questions? No, I just wanted to say I did a drop off of cookies around the block that's been finished in the CBD, and which I shared with the councillors and iwi reps this morning, and the feedback was fantastic. They said the council communications was excellent. They were hearing on a regular basis and updates, and also that the crew have been exceptional. In fact, going into businesses saying, this is what we're doing today, this is how long it'll take, this is how you'll be affected. And they even took out the rubbish for Valentine's every week. But they just said they were fabulous. So
They have
congratulations.
been great. I do read their weekly updates and at least one instance of them helping an elderly lady to change her tyre.
Oh.
So those sorts of things are coming through, which I think is
Yeah, so that's terrific. Thank you, Laura. And then we're on to Waiti Water.
we do have facilities and open spaces.
Oh, okay. All right. Facilities and open space.
I have Ian available, which is great. So
Maybe that's why I skipped it.
that's fine. So Ian will be able to talk to the highlights within the infrastructure report. It's been a busy couple of months with lots of deliverables.
Nice jacket, Oz. Queen Street,
Queen Street.
supporting local retailers. Good boy. Over to you.
So that was read, I guess, some of the highlights for us is the Solway Playground, which should be open to the public early July, which we'll do a formal opening with. So the Disability Advisory Group and the Waipa Special Learning Centre, who played a part in some of the design brief, will be invited along with the elected members and Solway Residents Association. So who all played a part in driving that project. So yeah, it's looking really, really cool and bright, vibrant. So look really excited about that. Again, also the Ngāti Te Koro Reserve. There's some obviously weather's played a little bit of an impact on our contractor's ability to finish it off, but the first phase is very close to finishing. The space, the path trail network has been completed. There's some nice little features in there, which the hapu are very happy about with how it's come together. But the Harakiki beds will be the last part to implement. And we'll move in to look at coming back to seek more money for the next phase as part of the LTP funding that's already been set aside. Senior housing fully occupied, which is great, and the waiting list has come down. It's probably half where it was about 18 months ago, so which is really good. And a lot of that is we just keep revisiting the list. People are finding alternative sources of accommodation in the community. Morley Holiday Park, obviously that's had a change in manager, and the new manager has come in, guns blazing, done a lot to elevate the park in its appearance, and also just its approach far more proactive in regards to marketing and that. So there has been a bit of a late lift in the year, so that's good to see. In regards to we helped GW at Riversdale Beach with a native planting. It's a key native ecosystem arrangement that we have with Greater Wellington Regional Council. So one of our officers went out to support a community planting event, 1,600 little grasses, and that went into the dunes from the sort of surf club along the front of Blue Pacific Parade. And I think I'll just take any questions.
Questions? Stella, then Gary.
Thanks, Oz, for the report. It's not completely direct, well, it is sort of directly to do with your report, but do you remember we had that presentation from that group that did the review of the stadium and the sports? So I guess my question is, what's the next steps for that for us as elected members?
LTP.
So
long-term plans.
Yep. So from that feasibility study, we'll just double check some of the figures that they quantity surveyed in regards to that, just to confirm the accuracy of the pricing. and then we can bring in, I guess, bring in everything. You can cherry pick if there's anything in amongst that you'd like to progress. Or we can bring in components that we, but the facility, obviously it's continually evolving. It takes a fair bit to manage it and maintain it.
Yeah.
So which, as you can see, there's going to be another shutdown
Yeah.
for a period in July. That's all been worked in with our contractor, trying to make it as least impactful as possible. But the lights above the 7-lane pool have become redundant light. They're no longer supported. They can't get spares for them anymore, and they're corroding quite significantly. So part of this closure will be to renew all that with LED modern lighting, which will give us another 15 to 20 years of life.
Yeah. And that report is on, it's in a, we've got a copy.
It's in,
Yep, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Cheers. Gary?
Yeah, as a very regular visitor to the Ngāti Te Kuru Reserve, I'm getting a number of questions from people who use that area, and I must say to councillors, you need to get up there. It's people who use that 4th Street Trail, they really look on that reserve, and it's starting to look really good. Ian, I'm just wondering, the second phase, I've been asked this question a number of times, is there going to be play equipment there for kids? Is that the idea of the second phase or not?
So it's Whawhamiskul have done a master plan for the site, and it's up to the hapu as to where they want to focus the next part. There is a marahupara type element of play area, which is sort of that natural imaginative play and that. So there is an area within that they've set aside to develop that approach, but it all depends what the hapu want approach prioritised. There's going to be a waharo entrance as you come off 4th Street onto the top trail, where that fence has been reclad. So there's going to be a sort of a welcoming building that's going to have some explanation panels around Whakimanu Ngāti Te Kau, and so that's first phase. We've already bought the structure because it was a massive bargain, which we couldn't ignore. But the next phase will be to get that structure built and then look at the wider development of the space, which could include play. We've got to look at potentially car parking options and that, but we're in discussion with a local entity that are looking to do some development nearby.
So how does the financing of this work go? Is this because I always tell people it's a council project, but obviously it's more than that. This is a combined.
Yeah, so this is why, the descendants of Reti-Mauna Ngāti Te Kau, who helped Joseph Masters establish Masterton, I think it actually features in the He Ranga He Tangata Wellbeing Strategy, but it was identified as an area to acknowledge that past, and so the hapu worked with Whawhamiskul, and when Larissa was here, she was heavily involved in the work around developing that plan for the site, and then it was tabled through the long-term plan 2023-24, and some reserve contribution funds was set aside over 3 years, and but we've only been able to deliver sort of from year 2 onwards because there was a lot of work around finalising what hapu wanted, and then so we'll be looking to use the balance of those funds to progress the next stage. But we'll meet with hapu and work through what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I think there are a number of people who are really excited to see what's happening there.
Yeah.
Every day I go there, somebody else asks.
Yeah. So that sort of
really
I know there's a bit of dirt spoil there at the moment, but that sort of flat platform area, the aim is for that to become I think the overarching was to become a wānanga space. So there's going to be medicinal planting beds created, and a whole lot of it's become an education space as well as an area potentially for events to happen.
Thanks, Alison. No, it's looking great.
AJ?
Just two quick questions on the rationale for the movement of the toilet of the Southern Reserve and just some more understanding around the Panama land disposal.
So the Southern Reserve toilet relocation was something that came out of the Riversdale Beach community community plan. So they engaged with each other. They set out a 10-year plan, and one of the things that they highlighted as one of their priorities was there's a toilet in Southern Reserve, which is a sort of a log cabin type feature that sat out in the reserve, and that wasn't accessible. Was a bit of a hike in the dark from the car park area. So one of the things was that they wanted to bring it out of the reserve closer to the car park, so people could use it as they go into the reserve or as they come out of it. And then the original intention was that the structure that the current toilet was in, it's been decommissioned now, would become like an information shelter. So it would have wildlife and all that, but we're just waiting to see what the community want, because there are some within the knocked down.
Yeah, two questions.
Yep. So the second part, Panama. So yeah. So we worked through the High Court process for disposal. That's all been signed off. So we've been working with a lawyer that was involved in that High Court process to develop an EOI to go out to the market to look at how we dispose of the Panama land, lease the land, so it's about developing an EOI to see what public interest there is from entities. One of the things that's to enhance the EOI process was that we front loaded some of that investment on there that the other parties might have to do. So we're currently getting a geotech assessment done, and we're also getting a traffic impact assessment done for coming out onto Namatoa Road. So that all of that information is there to support development.
And when you refer to the land, you're talking about the unoccupied land around the outside.
So not the current village, just the spare.
Well, good. Any other questions of Oz? No, fantastic. Thank you, Oz. Back to you, Tyler, for Waiti Water.
Waiti Water, so of course, the program's accelerating. Catherine is in this afternoon to talk to the elected members, so there could be quite a few questions that you want to perhaps park and ask Catherine this afternoon. Certainly internally, we've through Gina engaging with affected staff, so that is an ongoing process which look to get confirmation and a lot more clarity and certainty for staff as we move into the tail end of this year. Eddie, I believe most of the information you probably want to just about will be based on what Catherine asked you about this
We can do that. Is everyone happy to wait until Catherine's here this afternoon if you've got any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, excellent. So we received the infrastructure report. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Jackson, by Councillor Holmes. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, motion is carried. Now page 227, 8.3 corporate activity report. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kia ora koutou. This is the activity report for the last few weeks within our corporate and comms team. I'll take the report as read, but a couple of things to highlight. Stand out for us in a big way, and I don't know if you've been there yet, is the digitisation of the Wairarapa Times Age old newspapers. Thanks to support from Marsden Trust, Lands Trust and the National Library, they're now online. If you haven't gone and had a look at them, please do. It's a delightful place to spend a little bit of time and have a look at what was being reported on back here. It's online and it's easy to access. 10 minutes to kill, and you want to find out what's happening in 18 something on the front page of the paper, have at it. Few events coming up at the library throughout July. Check out the website to see what's on the school holiday program. One of note, of course, is that we have a mayor's story time on the 9th of July at 10:30. I would ask you to bring all of your friends and relatives along so that they can enjoy the Mayor of Masterton reading a favourite story. On the future of local government community survey, that survey closed last Friday. We got a good response rate, 559. There'll be a report coming out to council at the end, an information report coming out at the end of this week. We'll also make that available online. We're just tidying up that report and it should be ready to go. I wanted to shout out the Queen Street retailers for their support of the Queen's promotion that we ran. It was massively successful as far as the number of receipts that we got were huge. It was drawn by Her Worship from a digger bucket on Queen Street and won by a young local who had shopped at a brand new business in town. He very excitedly, I understand, ran back into that brand new business down and dropped about half of his winnings back into that store. So great news for the young person who won, great news for the store in our CBD. So there is a second phase of that happening right now at the next block of Queen Street. Get in there, do your shopping, see if they're a participating retailer, find out how to enter. You could be up for $1,000. There's a new section in here as well that I just want to draw attention to that outlines what Deb is covering in her new role in community development as our Pō Arataki. We're really delighted to have Deb accept this broader scope of role within our organisation. She'll be supporting our organisation, MDC, and our cultural competency work, helping build some organisational capacity and understanding, and using her already extensive networks with iwi, hapu and marae across the district to help us just be a little bit better in that space. And that's all I would like to highlight, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Stella.
Thanks, mate. Great report.
Thank you.
Very easy to read and it's all good stuff. I love that you've listened and you guys have increased your social media outreach, and I have personally noticed that myself, especially on the LinkedIn page. So that's great, awesome, and getting good traction. My question is around just the Waiapa Funders Forum and the big shout out volunteer day. I'd love to get an idea of how many people attend those.
I can
please.
Kelsey to join me at the table.
Sure. So the Wairarapa Funders Forum, we had just over 80 booklets given out. Not everybody got a booklet though. So we're estimating kind of just 100. And then for the volunteer big shout out, we didn't have as many. So we had around about 85 RSVP, but not all of them showed up. Yeah, so
would you guys
60s?
Yeah, cool. Would you? Because the feedback I get from that is that, oh, I'd love to be there, but I can't go because it's during the day, and I understand that a lot of our volunteers are of the senior age bracket. But I think as time moves on, more volunteers are now of a younger bracket. So would you consider maybe next year running it on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday morning? Something like that?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, we looked at that this year as well, and not every time is suitable for all. But yeah, there could be some consideration around moving it to a weekend. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Just before you go, Kelsey, how many funders forums were there? There were 3, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Trust House has requested that there just be perhaps 2, South Waiapa and Amara.
Yeah.
Because the numbers get spread, and it's just difficult. I know that years ago there just used to be 1, which was quite popular, and I'm not suggesting that, but just a suggestion that maybe 3 is too many.
Yeah, we had the same feedback this year. But potentially 1, maybe based in Carterton, was a conversation for next year that we're going to have.
Yeah, that was all. Thank you. Any other questions, Matt? Great work, ComDev team and comms. Excellent.
Thank you.
That's the fun stuff, hey?
Yeah, I get the good stuff. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll take the corporate and community activity report. Do I have a mover? Yep. Stella, seconded by Brent. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now we get on to the fun stuff, strategy and policy. Page 234.
Thank you for your appreciation, your worship. Fun and vital to the functioning of our council, of course. So I will just take you through just a couple of points. We continue working with the reforms at pace. It's taken a lot of resourcing within the council to respond to the Head Start, as well as the councillors, as you well know, that we're trying to support all options at the moment that are relevant to us. And so that's quite a lot of meetings and thinking about how we may look in the future with under that Head Start proposal. Our RMA reforms, we've also running alongside that. So we're working with the region on what a regional spatial plan may look like. Because that's still talking to a regional plan under the existing bill and not taking into account the Head Start proposals. So it's a lot of double ups at the moment. We have also responded and contributed to the emergency management bill, and we are anticipating quite significant changes through the Building Act, and we will be making a submission on that. Some great news around our 10 Town Centre Improvement Fund, that we have met with the Scrum, and the Scrum has identified those projects that are worthy of receiving some ratepayer money to help beautify our town centre and to just make it look as good as it possibly can as we go through those Queen Street improvements. And we've allocated $135,000 for projects that have a value up to 380. I will just then skip right to the end to end on another fun and important note around Lagoima requests. You'll see that we've passed last year's total already, and we are just halfway through the year. Everybody is experiencing significant increase in Lagoima requests, and I think as people become more motivated to question, which is their absolute democratic right to do that. We have the benefit of AI, and we are seeing many more AI generated requests that tend to generate a lot more requests for information, and then it's very easy to respond very quickly with subsequent requests. So that's my view on why we've had such a significant uptick in that. There are discussions across the sector, local government, and how we can respond while still being as transparent and accessible as the law and as ethics require us to be. I also note that the government is signalling a review of the OIA. They're looking at how much it's costing central government to respond to OIA requests, and if this government get back in, I expect there to be an OIA and Lagoima review further down the track. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Karen, please?
Yeah, just one.
Tim?
Just with, you spoke about this this morning, Councillor Anytime, with the moving of the next meeting, the 30th of June, what are the implications of actually having that meeting on the 1st of July? Like, what would the penalties be? It's only one day, and there seems to be a perfectly reasonable explanation for moving it the 1st of July.
Yeah, sure. So we are required under the LGA to adopt our annual plan and set the rates resolution for the following year by the end of the 30th of June. So if we don't meet those requirements, we can't set the proposed rates in accordance with the rates resolution. We can't charge those proposed rates until council has adopted the annual plan, which means that we are only able to continue to charge last year's rates, and we can only do that for a period of the first quarter, and then the Act is silent. So we won't, if we don't adopt the rates by then, we can't charge anything, and we'll probably go bankrupt within about 3 months.
So by one day.
I know.
And there's no way around it.
No.
What about if councillors can attend those meetings? Like, I simply cannot attend that meeting.
No.
There was a question whether the meeting could be in the evening.
We would need to re-notify, but we haven't notified. No, that's because it's an extraordinary meeting. I think that we could probably try and accommodate that.
Because that means otherwise we're missing
Three of us.
Tim and Stella.
And AJ.
We can
And
have a look
AJ.
at that.
We
but-
might,
yeah.
shall we take this, we'll discuss this after.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's the timetable we have, and when we make changes at the last minute, that's unfortunate where we're up
Yeah, we
against that.
understand.
We have to do those.
I'm sorry, I don't agree, but can you, find another, explain that please, Karen, because I still don't understand why it's one day. You've just said that we can only rate for, like, so if the decision's gonna be made the next day, why?
We have to adopt, under the Local Government Act, we have to adopt the annual plan by the 30th of June. So if you don't adopt the annual plan, you can only set the rates resolution once you've adopted the annual plan.
Which will happen the next day.
So that all has to be done by the end of the 30th of June. Even though it might be only one day, that's the legal requirement. So, the audit office will say, you've had 1 year to do this. Why did you wait until the very last day to do that? And as we know, there's been reasons for that. Yeah, so if we don't set it and we don't adopt the rates resolution because we've gone past the time frame, we can't then charge those new rates. We're only able under the Local Government Rating Act to charge current rates, and we can only do that for 1 quarter.
Yeah.
There's no example of councils anywhere having that 1 day leeway.
There have been examples of councils. I'm looking at David Harris because he's got a very long memory, but there are some councils that have done that. But that's the implications. Is only charge the current year's rates, and then you have to try and catch up during the rest of the year.
Okay.
By charging more in the following
So I'm
3.
sure we can accommodate an evening.
But we can look at that. We can have a
Anyway,
Go like 4 o'clock.
let's do, we don't want to, can we discuss it after the
Yeah.
council meeting? Thank you. So we've got a mover for Karen's report. Councillor Bowyer, seconded by Councillor Collins, and all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Has been passed. So we'll address that shortly. We're finished. Meeting report. Do we have any councillor reports, please?
Yeah, so if you would.
Stella, then Tim.
Thank you. So, Tiafina Hub. So at the moment, we're obviously like many community groups seeking grant funding, which is proving to be more and more difficult every year, but there's a good team behind them doing that work, which is good. You may or may not know, but Kingsway Night Refuge actually falls under the governance umbrella of Tiafina. They are currently the small mighty team there at Kingsway are currently looking at becoming their own incorporated society. So they'll remove themselves away from the governance structure of Tiafina, which is going to be really positive. So that's all underway. On that note, Kingsway, as you can imagine, being winter, is the patronage has increased considerably, and they do have concerns around the proposed move on orders, given the fact that we're there for them to possibly move into, become guests of our refuge, but this with no government funding, limited funding, actually, that poses a problem. But they're open a year today, so I think we as a community should be really proud of that. And so they're doing well. Like I said, strong and mighty team, but yeah, it's been great. In regards to the refugee steering group space, I was unable to attend the previous meeting just past, but they are now meeting quarterly, which is great. From that really high governance level. But what we're doing is Tess O'Hara and myself are working to form a community group that will be sort of on the ground, running around, more within, our own community. So they'll be focused more on the, education side of things, events, ensuring that the community is well equipped with what they need to integrate and be, wonderful members of Masterton. So that's all kind of happening in the background, which is great, but far better having that quarterly steering group meeting. It just makes more sense, really. And then also there's new funding that's just been dropped into that group, which is great, $30,000, and of which a small portion of that is going to go towards leadership training for members of the refugee community, both their Amadea and Congolese, so we can have more of their faces and lived experience around community group tables and other governance kind of groups. So it's all good. Thank you.
Tim.
Just very briefly, I'm on the board of people wanted up and now, looking forward to their strategic day that was organised, going to take place on the last day of the school holidays. So lots of work going on there. And also on the Pukaha board as well. I've enjoyed the 2 meetings I've been to, and it does really give me a great insight into what's happening. I don't have speaking rights or anything like that, but it's really good having that overview and in another forum I can share back with you what I see in those meetings. Carl, thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Craig?
Just a quick report. At the Mayor's DMs and Cs meeting, Waiti Forum, we had our first meeting with the board, which we went through. You'll see the statement of expectations. We had a nice little discussion about that. Hug meeting as well, which is a Hood user group, so that's always a delight down there. Regional Transport Committee, which is interesting. Okay, that's in Wellington. Does seem to be very dominated by Greater Wellington. I think combined district plan, there's been a couple of meetings on that happened as well, just tidying up some little loose bibs and bobs there. And the Wairarapa Road Safety Council. Interesting time.
And some sleeping in between. Thank you very much. So we'll just thank you for everything that you all do in our community. So we'll just move on to the mayoral report. I've got it included in the agenda there on my meetings. Just a few highlights though. First one is Kotiaraha unveiling. Kotiaraha is preschool that's in Johnston Street, almost parallel diagonally across from Makolda. And they collaborated with the Makolda College art students for a new mural that's on the outside of the building on the street verge of Johnston Street. And we had a special unveiling, which was awesome. And the little kids were doing a haka and college students were responding. And it was just a lovely, heartwarming presentation, actually. So if you go past there, you'll see it immediately on the left, and they're all very proud of it. So that was lovely. Active at Any Age Wairarapa event for older persons. I don't know why I was there. Obviously a ring-in. Which was run by Nuka Ora, and it was a chance to trial many activities for older retired people. And I had my first go at pickleball. Smashed it. Yeah, she was good. She was good. And then I played the Carterton Merit table tennis. He's very competitive.
You smashed him too.
Yeah, thanks, AJ. 2 great honours were attending Lynn Tankersley's farewell. Many of you know Lynn from her community service, mainly with the homeless people through the Elizabeth Street shelter and also Kim's Way, and she's moving to Fielding. And it was the day before she got her King's birthday honours. I was wondering why she had this big grin all over her face. So that was a privilege, and we thank her for the work she's done in our community. And then that same weekend, it was also a privilege to join Mike Kawan's celebrations with his friends and whānau at Te Ori. Thank you, Warika, for his well-deserved King's Service Medal as well. And gosh, 2 people to be from us and really to be proud of. Another highlight was the opening of the Wairarapa Teachers Conference. You know, Tim, you'd appreciate this, about 400 teachers in one room. You just want to lock the door on the way out. Kidding, Tim. It was terrific and amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing guest speakers. And the interesting one, the first guest speaker was talking about adapting to change. And even though she was talking about education and all central government keeps throwing at them and reform and everything, it was so relevant to what we're going through with local reform. And there's some really good takeaways from that. And also they had workshops during the day and other speakers. So it was a pleasure to be there at Waikol. And I've been engaging with some of our community groups. The recent ones were Ranfurly Club, South Marston South Rotary and the Hiwi Men Shed. And I'll tell you the reason why. My husband went and played snooker with someone from the men's shed, and all he was saying is, oh, council's responsible for this and council's responsible for that. And 3 of the things he raised were nothing to do with council. Yeah. So I actually thought I better
Get down there.
Yeah, get down
Story
there.
straight.
And tell them what's really going on. So I gave an update on council's plans and projects and budgets and timelines and what we were doing and when it would be done, and also talked about proposed amalgamation. And they were fabulous audiences, really well received, and they said yes, please come back. So that was a good sign.
Snooker.
Pardon?
Remember snooker.
I won't say. And I want a special thanks to Rangatani for the prize of the Tino Rangatani Tanga exhibition. It was fascinating, moving and quite emotional, I found. But it was a very gracious offer and a privilege to attend and take time rather than, you know, but it was amazing. So thank you. And only two more things. Join the team at the Marston Fire Station to recognise employers who release their volunteer firemen from work to train or attend call-outs. And this was a learning curve too. We've got about 23 volunteer firemen in Masterton, and they attend between 400 and 600 call-outs every year. So you imagine how amenable their employers need to be. So that was to celebrate them. And we've got an employer in our staff at MDC, and he volunteers for Carterton. Might be the first step of amalgamation.
Working together.
Yeah, heaven forbid. Only an emergency sprint.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Beginning.
and then the big shout out was great too to celebrate our volunteers. Just wanted to say a national social survey was done recently, which showed that 53% of people in the last month had volunteered in some way. So if you extrapolate that to Masterton, it's like 15,000 people last month volunteered. Yep. And even just trying to get your head around that's enormous, but also too, it just reinforces the fact that this community wouldn't go around without our volunteers. And thanks to the Wairarapa Community Centre and our community development team for organising that. It's always a pleasure. And there's just a couple of business things to follow up on. Stella is stepping down from Te Awhina, and AJ will be the council representative, because AJ's on the anyway. And also AJ will be stepping onto the hearings committee, because as you know, Jamie was on that before, and AJ's just completed her good decisions training. So my resolution is to move that AJ, Andrea Jackson, is the council appointee on Te Awhina and the hearings committee. So could I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Wairika. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So that's my report, and that's the end of the meeting, and we move into public excluded. Thanks to everyone who attended. Thanks, Emily. And we'll have a 10-minute break.
Yes.
It's really just minutes. And then we have a break, and we've been at 2:00.
Have you done the resolution?
Yeah, hang on a minute. One thing.